Number 10. There are substances on set. Actors using substances on set is nothing new. A lot of people are pretty sure that Seth Rogen smokes his herbs and spices on set constantly, something he's admitted to doing before, but not as often as the internet makes it out to be. However, in the earlier days of Hollywood, substances were not only done on set, they were encouraged by the studios, who would regularly feed their actors their narcotic of choice on set. In fact, John Belushi from the Blues Brothers was such an avid consumer of No-No Snow that the price of powder was built into the budget for the 1980 flick. No wonder he's in sunglasses all day. If he took them off, he'd look like he just got pepper sprayed. Or something. I don't know what happens when you do that stuff. I'm a good boy, I promise. Facts are that this still takes place to this day. Now, I have signed a few NDAs in my time as a locations PA, so I cannot specify who does what and where, but the amount of celebrities that surprisingly love that No-No Snow is astonishing. No wonder so many people deliver great performances. It's because they amp themselves up in a bathroom for 5 minutes before every scene.
Number 9. Thandie Newton. When speaking with Vulture, Newton revealed exactly why working with Tom Cruise on the 2000 film Mission Impossible was a total nightmare. When asked why she never filmed another movie in the franchise, the actress said, "Oh, I was never asked. I was so scared of Tom. He was a very dominant individual. He tries super hard to be a nice person." She described him as really stressed and dominant, recounting an incident on set in which she and Cruise attempted to finish a night scene on the balcony. Quote, "I don't think it was a very well written scene. I get angry with him, we're frustrated at each other, and Tom made a decision at the very beginning of the movie, unbeknownst certainly to me, that he didn't speak English, which I think was very helpful to him, but it was extremely unhelpful to the rest of us." Thandie went on to say that Tom got so frustrated with her performance that it just pushed her further into a place of terror and insecurity. But despite everything, Thandie insisted that she doesn't think poorly of Tom as a person. Quote, "He wasn't horrible, it was just that he was really stressed. But the pressure, he takes on a lot. I think he has this sense that only he can do everything as best as it can be done."
Number 8. There are ties to the mafia. The film industry may be a multi-billion-dollar business, but where did they get that first bit of cash from to get where they are today? Well, apparently Hollywood has a dark history that's tied to organized crime families. The Trucadero, or the Truck, was a famous spot on the Sunset Strip back in the day, with many celebrities coming through the doors, along with studio heads and notorious mob leaders like Mickey Cohen, who was a regular at the establishment. He was a man who rubbed elbows with many of Hollywood's A-list. In fact, the film Texas Chainsaw Massacre, released in the 1970s, was released by Bryanston Pictures, a company heavily linked to several crime families. While the production studio ended up going bankrupt, Hollywood is still filled with many people doing secret deals. I bet all of the money in my savings account that they had something to do with this Barbenheimer nonsense. Now that's not a lot of money, but the mob runs the memes, confirmed. Number 7. Woody Harrelson's father. Woody is best known in Hollywood as the wildest wild child ever to exist. He eats raw meat, he's an eco-crusader, he's a protester against violence, and an advocate for the legalization of herbs and spices in the United States. He's loved on screen, but did you know that his father took people out for money? And I'm not talking about on dates. That's a different job. Charles Harrelson was sentenced to 2 lifetime sentences for the slaying of a federal judge in San Antonio. And prior to that charge, Charles had previously been acquitted for the slaying of Alan Berg, who was a carpet salesman. And he was convicted of the slaying of Sam DeGalia. He's not the greatest hitman of all time. His track record will prove that. The evidence shows that Charles is not the greatest hitman of all time. Woody doesn't speak much of his father these days, opting instead to leave his family's trouble in the past. He does, however, say that the one piece of advice that his father ever gave him that he still uses to this day is always keep an open mind. Charles knew all about opening minds with bullets. Number 6, they have backups of A-listers. There have been many rumors over the years that Hollywood likes to clone their best and brightest on the off chance that they'll need them again following their ultimate demise. According to the internet, Paul Rudd actually got to star alongside his clone in the show Living with Yourself. Now, Paul has of course claimed that the performance was achieved with CGI and filming one character one day and another the next, but Paul Rudd is also 54 years old and looks like that, so something is not right about this. Now, there is a theory out there aware that the celebrity elites are made up of lizard people who take the form of actors and singers to influence us. And Paul is thought to be one of those lizard people. Now, I don't believe this theory, I'm just sharing something cool that I found on the internet. But it would be awesome if there were two Paul Rudds. In fact, that would be the most chill way to find out that cloned people exist. Just Paul being like, "Hi, I'm Paul," and "Hi, I'm also Paul. Everything's gonna be fine." Number 5, Mark Wahlberg should be in jail. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch hit the rap scene in 1991, and despite sounding like the title of a cheesy kids show, the crew had a small following and garnered a bit of success. Enough for leading man Mark Wahlberg to be spotted and picked up by Hollywood to star in The Corruptor, a 1999 action flick that sees Mark play the leading man Danny Wallace, a police officer who attempts to stop substance trafficking and corruption by the Chinese triads. He's had a successful acting career that has recently been declining in quality, but he's still acting and he looks jacked at the age of 52, so please don't hurt me, Mark. Infinite was just hard to watch. Growing up in Boston, he was the youngest of 9 children and was relentlessly bullied by his fellow siblings. His parents divorced when he was very young, and he became addicted to no-no snow by the time he was in his mid-teens. He dropped out of high school and was eventually arrested when he was just 18 for attempting to slay 2 Vietnamese men. Apparently, he was walking home late one night under the influence of a hallucinogenic narcotic when he spotted the men. Close friends at the time have confirmed that Mark had a racial biased upbringing, which caused him to be instantly aggressive towards anyone who just wasn't white. He attempted to swing a large log at them, which did make contact and knocked one of the men unconscious. He was eventually released after serving only 45 days of his 2-year prison sentence, and he vowed to change his life. Now, so far, he's kept that promise, and I can personally confirm that he's very polite and patient, because he actually watched a movie at the theater I used to work at. He does travel with a crew of 5 people at all times surrounding him. It's a bit intimidating, just a little. Number 4, Margot Robbie may be crazy. Margot may be a perfect Barbie on screen, but apparently behind the scenes, she might be a psychopath. In a recent interview with BBC Radio 1, Margot reminisced about a little prank that she pulled on an old babysitter that involved kitchen cutters, which is the word I'm forced to use for the thing that you cut tomatoes with. Apparently, Margot had just gotten a new babysitter, a much older woman that just apparently wasn't as cool as Talia. So she hatched a plan of sweet, sweet revenge. After a particularly trying day where Margot refused to take a bath, she decided to kick the old lady out for good. She grabbed ketchup, her stabby jabby things, and laid face down on the kitchen tiles. You know, the old "I've been stabbed" routine. As you may expect, her babysitter walked in, took one look, screamed, and just ran out the door. Traumatized, the woman quit and Margot successfully got her old babysitter back. But that is messed up. That is so messed. And Margot was like young when she did this. Like, it's a very dark place for someone's mind to go so early on in their life. Has she secretly been a little bit crazy this whole time? It might explain why she was so good as Harley Quinn. Number 3, Tim Allen's hobbies. Tim Allen is the voice of Buzz Lightyear and the star of ABC's popular sitcom Home Improvement, which premiered in 1991. While he may have played a family man on TV, many fans may not know that Tim was a smuggler of no-no snow in the early 1970s. According to Tim, he got mixed up with some bad people back in the day while he was selling certain substances on the street for a few bucks. In 1978, Tim was arrested in Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport, what a name, and was caught with more than 650 grams, 1.4 pounds of no-no snow. Unfortunately for Tim, state legislators had just passed a law that tied a life sentence to any conviction of selling 650 grams or more. Like, as he was being arrested, there was a guy in a car with him like, "And if you have 650 grams, you're a goner." However, that sentence was never served, as it was revealed that Tim was set up by an undercover police officer who had been following him for months. Due to this and Tim's cooperation in providing the names of fellow dealers to the authorities, it led to him receiving a lighter conviction that allowed him to be sentenced in a federal court instead of a state, so being able to ignore that new policy entirely. His information led to 20 arrests and the sentencing of a major dealer. Can that be a movie, please? Number 2. CGI'd before they pass. Unfortunately, computers are not only making everyone's lives easier when it comes to looking cool on screen, but they're also being used in some of the creepiest ways ever. So, the first example of someone being CGI'd into a movie following their passing was Carrie Fisher, and I do mean first to have a speaking line and be a significant character. Rise of Skywalker did not heavily feature her, but the fact that they had that ready to go so fast after she passed, it was super unnerving. They pulled this with Stan Lee too in one of his last on-screen cameos, and Marvel was going to do this with Chadwick Boseman in the sequel to Black Panther, but the studio changed their minds last minute, and thank the good Lord. But not only is Hollywood prepared to CGI their people into movies, they seem to have inside knowledge of when it's gonna happen. With the new addition of AI into the world of film, we're close to Hollywood not even needing actors anymore and just asking the computer to make Tom Cruise do stunts. Deepfake technology is also getting better and better, making it extremely difficult to tell if a video is authentic or just some CGI shenanigans. Nope, still just me. Number 1. They're all broke. That's right, despite it being one of the most lucrative industries in the world, most of Hollywood's actors, writers, directors aren't as well off as we may think. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past month, most of Hollywood is closed right now as its staff are on strike. Some of the toppest of tier actors have joined their crew in solidarity, not stopping until Hollywood's producers and big budget studios start sharing the money that they make. Actor Sean Gunn gave an interview this last week where he mentions working on a show currently streaming on Deflix, a show that has made over $4 million in residuals, of which he's received basically nothing. This type of financial woe extends to a ton of people in Hollywood, and I just wanted to take this moment to wish luck to anyone out there on the picket lines. Hollywood, pay your people, and everyone holding a sign or waiting for the strike to end, get what you're worth and get back to making the world a better place. Number 10. Innuendos. Disney is a brand that is aimed at wholesome family content able to be enjoyed by all. This means that sometimes they like to put some more adult jokes and references into their movies. Most are not obvious, but some definitely are. In Lion King, a certain 3-letter word is spelled out in the clouds, a word which means making love. However, the most disturbing hidden meanings seem to come from one specific series, Toy Story. Now, there are the obvious in-your-face references, like when Buzz's wings spring open in excitement when he sees Jessie the cowgirl opening the door for Andy's dog, and can you blame him? But then there's the toys Sid makes. If you don't remember Sid, you must be really good at suppressing traumatic memories, because my god was this guy scary. Not only was he just freaky, he did freaky things to his toys. He ripped their heads off and other pieces just to stitch them back together in a monstrous Frankenstein toy, one of which is simply just a pair of legs attached to a fishing rod. The toy is meant to be a play on the word for a woman of the night that starts with hook. Learned that today. Not to mention the massive amount of things that are poking out of underwear areas throughout movies like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. Seriously, Disney, you can try to hide it all you want, but you are thirsty, bud. Number 9. Where's my mama? When it comes to Disney, the number of deceased or missing moms is insane. When you think about it, almost all of the iconic characters we know and love had no moms. Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, Cinderella, Bambi. Let's not forget how traumatic the first 2 minutes of Finding Nemo was. I never understood what happened to that mom as a kid. Spoiler alert, she's viciously eaten by a barracuda in front of her husband. Thanks, Disney! According to some inside sources close to the company's creator, Walt Disney, there was actually a reason for this. His own mother, Flora Disney, unexpectedly passed away after the animator bought her a house with his earnings from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Unfortunately, the house had a faulty furnace that they attempted to repair, but it had apparently been unsuccessful. It ultimately leaked and asphyxiated her. Walt felt personally responsible for the tragedy since he bought that house, so it seems like this has had a lasting impact on him, as up until the early 2000s, there were basically no Disney moms. So many dark backstories for characters that have not been explored. Honestly, I think Disney should just make a movie set in the afterlife starring all of the deceased moms. Not even like trying to come back to life or anything, just like Nemo and Bambi's mom playing tennis or something. That would be cute. Number 8. The West Wing. Beauty and the Beast is one of the best Disney animated films ever created. It's beautiful, it's filled with catchy music, and all of the furniture is alive! First thing I need to point out here, if everything is alive and was once a person, does that mean that when they sit in chairs at the dining table that they're just like, on someone, that was a person and now your butt is rubbing against them. The darkest thing about this movie that they would prefer you to forget is of course the West Wing, where Belle is never allowed to venture. But eventually she does, and we see that the West Wing is filled with furniture and spider webs. Now, while at first this isn't anything special, it is an old castle after all. Once you realize that the furniture is not moving and is actually like disintegrating, the dark truth is revealed. The chairs and cabinets were once staff members of the castle. Perhaps some were a bit older than most when the curse originally took place, and this would mean that their final days were spent as an old table or a coffee cup. Seeing as they aren't bodies that you can bury, and you can't just leave them on the street for someone to take because that would be messed up, he just jammed the deceased staff members into a room and forgot about them. There are so many things in that room. I can only imagine what the West Wing must have looked like after the curse was lifted and people turned back into people. Oh, I can smell it. Ugh. Number 7, 1-800-ME. The Santa Claus is one of the most classic Christmas movies to ever be released by Disney Studios. However, the film did cause a little bit of an issue when it was first released. In the movie, a reference is included by Tim Allen in which he ad-libbed the number for a scene, and the number was 1-800-SLAP-MY-BEHIND. Okay, it actually wasn't that. I can't say the real number on here because you might call it, but just look it up. Because while this was a funny line at the time, it turns out that that was a real phone number that would connect you with a woman of the night, whose job was to verbally pleasure the caller for a small fee charged by the minute. Several youngsters reportedly dialed in and racked up massive phone charges for their parents, not knowing what they were actually doing. Man, I feel bad for the dads in that situation. Honey, I swear it was the kids, I don't even know this number. Thanks to the massive amounts of complaints, Disney had to adjust the dialogue in the DVD release to be 1-800-POUND instead, which, I don't know, that's somehow worse. Pound is a very aggressive word. However, if you own a VHS copy of this movie, those are the black bricks with the little strips of film inside them that you sometimes see in thrift stores. The original dialogue is still there, so sorry Disney, you tried to hide this one and it failed, because I still have a VHS tape. Number 6, Toy Story. The world of Pixar animated flicks already has cool theories, suggesting that every single computer animated movie released since Toy Story shares the same universe. That's right, like Cars, WALL-E, Monsters Inc. All of these exist in the same world, just in different places in time. However, it seems that this may extend beyond the world of Pixar. During a scene in the first film of Toy Story, a pattern can be seen on the carpet beneath Woody and Buzz in Sid's house. That may be familiar to some eagle-eyed horror movie fans. The carpet in question shares the exact same pattern as one throughout the floors of the Overlook Hotel in the 1980 film adaptation of The Shining. The number 237 was also used several times during the third Toy Story installment, which was the number on the famous hotel room in the Overlook, housing one of the gnarliest ghosts in the building. She still makes me uncomfortable today. The creator has exclaimed that he's a massive fan of the Shining universe, but he didn't confirm whether or not it shared the same world as Toy Story. But I don't know, the references were confirmed to be intentional and the evidence is clear. So perhaps we should keep an eye out for a Woody doll in the reboot of The Shining that I'm sure is in the works, because what won't they remake now? Everything is being remade. Number 5, The Little Mermaid. Now this entry is very dark and it covers the topic of consent and some physical altercations, so if that upsets you at all, please skip to the next entry, there is no harm done. The Little Mermaid is a Disney classic, but when you think about it, it really shouldn't be. The film follows the story of a young mermaid who trades her voice to a sea witch for legs, so that she can exist among the humans. As soon as she gets onto the shore, she meets Prince Eric, who falls madly in love with her, despite her literally never saying any words. Throughout the movie, we see Eric taking her around the island and the castle and introducing her to the townspeople, and it's cute, but she never says anything. She just smiles and continues about her day. One of the most glaring issues with this film that Disney would prefer us to forget is that Prince Eric almost kissed Ariel without her consent. During the famous Kiss the Girl scene, the lyrics are essentially just Sebastian telling Eric, hey man, it's good to go, kiss Ariel, it's the right time, it's the right mood, let's make it happen. But she didn't say that was okay, Mr. Krabs. He never actually plants the kiss until later on when she gets her voice back, but Disney actually tried to bury this in the new Little Mermaid live action movie. They changed the lyrics to include Eric needing permission to kiss the girl. Try all you want, Disney, the live action movie is trash and we are all going back to the OG for comfort. Number 4. Anna and Elsa's brother. The movie Frozen introduced us to the iconic princess Elsa and her sister Anna. The first movie received massive success, but like many Disney projects, the first few minutes are just rough to watch. In the opening of the film, the king and queen set off on a boat across the ocean, where they disappear following a shipwreck. In the movie, we're led to believe that they pass away at sea, but it was revealed by the film's directors Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee that they actually did survive the wreck and in fact washed up on shore of an island. Unbeknownst to them, the queen was pregnant with a little baby boy who was born on the island and left to fend for itself after the parents are mauled by a leopard. That's right, the truth behind the shipwreck in Frozen is that the princesses had a brother who grew up with apes and eventually became Tarzan. This is a really neat connection and the fans are excited to discover, but it means that Disney tried to hide the true, even more tragic story of what actually happened to their parents. They didn't just sink and that was it. No, they had to go and live a small life on an island and raise a child before they left the world. Like, I know Disney can be dark, but that's just depressing. Number 3. The fate of villains. Disney villains have often found themselves in some pretty rough situations. Thankfully, at the end of the movie, most are either slain or they're locked away forever. But the early days of Disney included some dark fates. One of the most disturbing is that of the Lion King baddie Scar. While he definitely received his karma being eaten alive by a wild pack of hyena, it was revealed that the hyena must have been pretty careful because in the movie Hercules, Scar briefly appeared as a pelt that the titular Hercules was trying on. Okay, ew. So it's okay because it's Scar, but like what about all the other people who passed away in Disney movies? You know, what happens to them? Scar being a pelt is just a hint to what might be going on behind the scenes. You know, like whatever did happen to his brother Mufasa after he fell? Did the same people that found Scar find him? Is there a pelt out there somewhere of the priest from the Hunchback of Notre Dame? I hope not. That dude needs to stay in the fire that they dropped him in. Here's my biggest question. What happened to Ursula's body after she's taken out at the end of The Little Mermaid? She's like 100 feet tall. Is there just a massive octopus carcass floating in the ocean now? They can try to hide it as much as they want, but if Scar can be a pelt, then the worst villain fates we can imagine, they're probably pretty accurate. Number 2. The Three Little Pigs. Three Little Pigs is probably one of the most universally known children's stories to ever exist. 3 pigs hiding from the big bad wolf who tries to blow their house down. As with most animated Disney classics, The Three Little Pigs is based on a much darker story. The story actually follows 3 pigs avenging the slaying of their father, because if you look on the back of the wall as the pigs play piano, there is a framed photo of a sausage, and it just says father underneath. The reason is in the original story, their dad is graphically stolen and turned into sausage links. The 3 pigs snap and they are now highly defensive of themselves and their homes. So when a wolf comes around trying to get its next meal, the pigs took action. In the Disney film, the 3 little pigs beat the wolf and he runs away never to be seen again. It's a very wholesome ending. The original story ends with the wolf crawling through the brick chimney only to be trapped in a boiling pot in a fireplace, where he is cooked alive and eaten by the pigs. Yeah, can't put that in a kids movie. They did their best to hide the original tale behind a colorful and short little cartoon, but not only is there a sausage in a picture frame that says dad, but there's also a photo of their mom feeding 7 pigs. So like, what happened to the other 4? Huh? Can we get a prequel, please? Prequel movie? Three Little Pigs Origins. And at number 1, the blatant rape. Unfortunately, a large number of Disney movies were released during a time in America where concepts like ethnic or racial sensitivity and political correctness, they just didn't exist. As a result, Disney has done their best to keep their past hidden, but it's just not good enough. In fact, one movie was so bad that it was banned upon release and Disney could not physically release it to the public. And talk about that more in a minute. For now, let's talk about the movies that make us say, that's not cool. Dumbo from 1941. The elephant encounters a group of crows who have been identified as racist caricatures of African Americans. While their actual role in the film is kind of positive, they're like the only ones that actually help Dumbo, the way they speak, act, move, everything is just so obviously a stereotype. Another example is a terrible portrayal of Native Americans in the original Peter Pan cartoon, where they're literally drawn with red skin and they sing what is probably one of the most racist songs ever put in a Disney movie. You know the one. But that's not even close to the worst. The worst was a movie called Song of the South, which you may have never heard of because Disney actually never never released it. The movie relied heavily on racial stereotypes and caricatures that has pegged it as the most offensive film ever put on tape. They tried to fix this by changing details in live-action remakes, even closing down a ride at their theme park because it has some pretty nasty history behind it. Despite them trying to make us forget about what happened, we will never forget that scene in Peter Pan. Seriously, who animated that?
Number 10. Alec is homophobic. Alec Baldwin is a proud man, being publicly anti-Trump and a registered Democrat with left-leaning political views. But despite his advocacy for equality, he's been accused of being homophobic on multiple occasions. In June 2012, Alec released a very angry tweet, which he later deleted. It contained comments about the New York Daily News editor-in-chief, Colin Meyer, calling him an English queen. A year later, People magazine reported that Baldwin released another tweet that the Daily Mail was a toxic little queen. Man, he loves that word. That same year, Alec was fired from his MSNBC talk show Up Late with Alec Baldwin after allegedly screaming homophobic slurs at a New York Post photographer. After his show was cancelled, Alec released an article that asked his fans, was he really homophobic? He went on to write, "Look, I'm in show business. I'm awash in gay people, as colleagues and friends." He then did the most defensive thing possible by listing all of his gay friends and then described a time when he had to kiss Russell Brand in a scene as a way to be like, hey, I kissed a dude, how could I be homophobic? Hey man, you'd be surprised. He made the argument that he was a public advocate for gay marriage because he officiated a ceremony at one point. But like, hey man, you're an actor. It would make sense that he plays the role of a public advocate to keep his true biases a secret and maintain his career. Number 9. Alec's control issues. While his brothers may have had a more public battle with their substance control issues, Alec also had to battle his demons in the form of multiple narcotics and a taste for adult beverages. In his 2017 memoir Nevertheless, Alec revealed that not only did he battle with control issues for years, but he also suffered from a nearly fatal overdose after a week-long bender of continuous partying. He wrote that he thinks he would have gotten sober eventually, but that the event was an early wake-up call that he needed to get clean just before he turned 27. He describes his time before that as living in the white, hot period of daily substances and drinks, claiming the experience to be an addictive nightmare that was impossible to get a handle on. Eventually, he was able to get a grasp on his issues and has remained relatively sober ever since. Well, at least California's sober at least. Wink wink. Number 8. Alec's temper. In 2007, Alec directed his hot temper at his daughter, Ireland, who he had had with his ex-wife Kim Basinger in a now infamous voicemail that would reveal the usual mild-mannered, soft-spoken man was secretly an angry man. TMZ obtained the audio of the message to Ireland in which Alec screams, "You are a rude, thoughtless little pig. You don't have the brains or decency to be a human being. I don't care if you're a child or that your mother is the toughest pain in the butt." The perception that he may be verbally chastising his daughter came after claims that he was going to straighten her out, which led a family judge to bar Alec from seeing his child. While the family later reconciled in 2012, his daughter has said in recent interviews that the voicemail was never perceived by her as intense, as she was used to those kinds of verbal outbursts from her father. Just to anyone watching this right now that thinks screaming and breaking things is a normal reaction when you're upset, it's not. Please call someone or get help, because it's not okay to act like that, especially towards your own flesh and blood. Seriously, if that's happening to you or someone you know, just call the number down below. Please talk to somebody and let your voice be heard. Number 7. Ireland's rehab stint. Alec Baldwin's daughter, named after his favorite place to pass out, isn't a party girl, but she certainly came close a few times. A source told Radar Online that Ireland was not considered to be an addict per se. She did drown her feelings in the spicy no-no juice that adults just love to glug though. In 2015, Ireland had to be hospitalized for severe stomach pains, which turned out to be a serious case of appendicitis. Despite it just being her appendix, the hospital visit had come after a roughly 6-month bender, and she reportedly told the hospital officials that she needed professional help. Baldwin then found herself checking into Soba Recovery Center in Malibu, California, which treats control issues for various substances, as well as any underlying psychological problems that may lead to them. She was quoted as claiming that she's not much of a party girl, but she needed to deal with some emotional trauma and get some intense therapy to help her speed up her recovery. Thankfully, she progressed beautifully during her time at Soba, thanks to the support of her fellow Baldwinians, especially her mama Kim, who regularly sent her care packages from home with little notes and treats. Hey, got a problem with substance control issues? Eat a Snickers. Number 6. Steven is broke. While he may not be as well known as his brother Alec, Stephen Baldwin has been steadily working in Hollywood since his first appearance in a minor role alongside Tom Cruise in the 1989 film Born on the 4th of July. He went on to star in several indie and medium-budget flicks, like the 1995 thriller The Usual Suspects, the Flintstones prequel Viva Rock Vegas from 2000, and probably most famously the 1996 film Biodome, of which he got a little bit too excited about. You see, Biodome ended up being one of his most lucrative films, and between the first paycheck in the year 2012, he went completely broke. While he's had steady work in smaller roles over the years, appearing to be well off, the paychecks have not always been the biggest. In 2012, Steven was arrested for failing to file his taxes from 2008 to 2010, owing the state over $350,000 in back taxes. It turns out he just loved spending money on literally anything he wanted. Houses, boats, cars, all of this landing him over $2.3 million in personal debt. Following his arrest, Steven pleaded guilty to tax evasion and was forced to pay back $300,000 immediately just to avoid any prison time. Recent reports say that he has moved into a small condo in New York after selling anything that may aid him in repaying the government. Hey, it only took him being arrested to realize that he should probably pay his taxes. How about that? Number 5. Steven can't drive. Alec's baby bro Stephen Baldwin may have had massive financial woes over the years, but he's also been a bit of a bad boy behind the wheel. In 2014, Baldwin was busted for driving with a suspended license in New York City. He was reportedly carrying an expired registration form, which he confidently handed to the police, expecting to be met with nothing but praise and excitement that it was Hollywood superstar Stephen Baldwin, oh my! Instead, he was met with handcuffs, as not only was the car registration expired, but his driving was so erratic and insane that he was charged with aggravated unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle, which is a misdemeanor, as well as driving an unregistered vehicle and driving with a suspended license. This was not the first incident involving his poor skills as a driver, however. A few years prior to that, he was also arrested for making an illegal U-turn. Well, he wasn't arrested for that. He was arrested because his license was beyond expire. In the end, though, he only had to pay a $75 fine that time, as the incident was a misunderstanding and his new license just so happened to appear the day after he was pulled over. Well, that's not suspicious at all. Number 4. Daniel's arrests. The Baldwin family may consist of Hollywood heavyweights and minor league players, but did any of you know about Daniel Baldwin? Because I don't know, I didn't. E! News reported that in 1997, Danny went on a no-no-snow fueled rampage at the famed New York Plaza Hotel, smashing every piece of furniture in sight and completely destroying his room. When police finally arrived following multiple noise complaints, Danny was in his birthday suit, bleeding, and incoherent. He was taken to the hospital where he woke up in handcuffs. He later pleaded guilty to the charges of disorderly conduct and was sentenced to 3 months of rehabilitation to avoid any jail time. This family should have like a little punch card or something, you know? 4 stints in rehab, get the 5th one free. The rehab didn't work, however, as in April 2006, Baldwin was arrested again for possession of no-no-snow after another hotel incident, this time in Santa Monica, though charges were never actually pushed onto him. He later confessed to People magazine that his control issues started at a party in 1989. 6 months later, he went to rehab, but it never took. He blames his major relapses and arrests on his prescription for Vicodin, which was given to him following a back injury. From there, he spiraled into everything under the sun, probably including the sun itself. Maybe you can get a buzz from that thing if you look at it too long. Nope, I'm just blind now. Number 3. Daniel's love life. Daniel hasn't only been involved with drama when it comes to the police, he's also got a pretty poor taste in judgment when it comes to his relationships. He's been married 3 times and has 5 children with 4 different women. While his first marriage wasn't very public, his second one was chock full of scandal. He married actress Elizabeth Hitchler in 1990 and divorced her 6 years later. During the same year, he had a son named Atticus with his Homicide: Life on the Street co-star Isabella Hoffman. They had reportedly been involved for over a decade, including during Dan's time married to Elizabeth. It's his 3rd marriage though when things got extreme. Baldwin met a woman named Joanne Smith in California at the rehab facility that he had been staying in. She was the chef, and he was hungry. They married in 2007 and had 2 kids together. In 2011 though, Baldwin again filed for divorce, this time citing Joanne's substance control issues as the main cause. He also alleged that Smith had told Dan she was going to end his life in front of their children and was accused of being physical towards him on numerous occasions, and would fall into violent rages. Police were even called to the house at one point and discovered that Smith was unfit to be around the kids and granted Daniel temporary custody and restraining order against her. Number 2. Divided by politics. While Alec may be outspoken as a man against former President Donald Trump, even parodying him on the sketch show Saturday Night Live for a few seasons, his brother Stephen is the yin to his yang, as he is a big-time supporter of the Republican bad boy. The differences in their beliefs caused a massive rift in the family unit that the Baldwins fought hard to keep secret from the public eye. Unfortunately, Stephen couldn't keep his fingers off of his phone, and he took to Twitter to have a public feud with his brother Billy Baldwin, who was also anti-Trump. The argument ranged from "I'm right, you're wrong" to "Dad would be rolling over in his grave right now if he heard you say that." In 2017, Stephen admitted to Hollywood Reporters that he hadn't spoken to his brother Alec in over a year following the dispute. Stephen's daughter Hailey Bieber confirmed that even within her immediate family unit, politics caused a lot of issues when Trump was elected. Now that he's out of office and on the verge of jail time, we have to imagine that the Baldwin family are just anxiously beating their heads on the wall like, what is gonna happen? And at number 1, Alec doesn't play by the rules. Alec always presents a calm and soft-spoken demeanor when he's in interviews or interacting with fans, but in his mind, the rules of common society just don't apply to him. A little while back, Alec was kicked off of an American Airlines flight after he refused to turn off his cell phone when the crew asked him to. According to Alec himself, he was playing a game of Word with Friends when the situation took place. Now, he posted on Twitter, "Flight attendant on American reamed me out for playing Words with Friends while we sat at the gate not moving. No wonder American is bankrupt." American Airlines themselves denied the notion that they took the situation too far, claiming that Alec was extremely rude and calling the crew inappropriate names and using offensive language the moment he got on the plane. He later continued his journey on another American Air flight and tweeted that the new crew had already looked smarter than the last one, making it sound like it's not a smart idea to upset him or something. I don't know. What are you gonna do, Alec? Huh? Come get me.
Coming at number 10, we have Kim Kardashian. The theme for the 2022 Met Gala was gilded glamour, and for Kim Kardashian this meant wearing one of Marilyn Monroe's dresses, which happened to be the dress that Marilyn wore when she sang Happy Birthday to President John F. Kennedy. Then later there would be conflicting reports that started to headline the media as they claimed that she damaged the dress that she only wore on the red carpet because it didn't fit her correctly, and then she changed into a replica dress inside the event, which led us all to question why did she have to wear the original to begin with. While Ripley's did claim that the dress was damaged beforehand and Kim never damaged the iconic gown, before and after photos would prove otherwise. Not to mention she also repeatedly bragged about her weight loss to fit into the garment. In the end, Monroe's fans were extremely upset that the fact Kim used part of the late star's legacy for this, and historic preservationists even were upset that the dress was damaged, and critics of diet culture were angry about Kim's harmful dieting tips. Number 9. Kendall Jenner. It's clear that Kendall is not someone who spends most of her time in the kitchen. During an episode from her family's new TV series, The Kardashians, the star would expose herself after she proved that she's probably never used a knife to cut her own vegetables a day in her life. In a now viral clip, Kendall could be seen in the kitchen wanting to make herself a snack in front of her mother, Kris Jenner, who awkwardly sat there dumbfounded when Kendall attempted to navigate what most can do before they're even a legal adult. At one point, you can even see Kris was concerned for her daughter's fingers when she cautiously watched before saying, "Do you want the chef to make you a snack?" Instead of holding the knife with her dominant hand and the cucumber in her other, the model reached her arm over the knife to grip the opposite side of the vegetable and then proceeded to cut inward, directing the slices to fall towards herself. While most would chuckle at an offer of professional hired chef being called in to simply chop up a cucumber for a 26-year-old woman, after witnessing Kendall attempt to do it on her own, it was pretty sad. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Number 8. Doja Cat. So do you remember the time when Doja Cat slid into Noah Schnapp's DMs just after season 4 of the hit Netflix series Stranger Things was released? While many of us were crushing on Joseph Quinn, who played Eddie Munson, it appears appears that Doja Cat wanted to get him before anyone else did, so she decided the best way to do it was to slide into the DMs of Joseph's co-star, Noah Schnapp, to see if Joseph was single, and then proceeded to ask Noah to send her a link on his Instagram. The internet then began to rage as Noah is still considered a child and Doja is a full-grown woman. Noah then responded by sending Doja the link, and then he decided it was too weird, so he read the DMs out loud for his TikTok fans to hear. In the end, Doja Cat would then be furious that Noah decided to expose her and described his actions as him being a borderline snake. Eventually, Noah did have a good laugh and he did apologize to Doja Cat for exposing the video, and then he went on to delete the video. But not before the internet called out Doja Cat for being 29 years old and messaging a 17-year-old. Like, come on Chrissy, just wake up and realize that wasn't okay. Number 7. Adam Levine. Back in September, Adam Levine would be plastered all over the headlines after model Sumner Stroff exposed Adam Levine in a series of shocking TikTok videos. Just shortly after Adam and his wife announced they were expecting their 3rd child. In the videos, Sumner would claim that she and Adam had an affair, and she even provided screenshots of their conversations as proof, so people knew she wasn't lying. In the beginning, Adam would then try to deny the affair, and he took to his Instagram to write a statement which said, "I used poor judgment in speaking with anyone other than my wife in any kind of flirtatious matter. I've not had an affair, nevertheless I crossed the line during a regrettable period of my life." Sumner clearly wasn't happy with Adam's statement, and then she came out with another TikTok video to claim Adam even asked her if it was okay to name his unborn child after her, and she urged for someone to get him a dictionary so he could look up the definition of cheating. Number 6. Ned Fulmer. Adding to the storm of cheating scandals, on September 27th, the internet content creators known as the Try Guys would announce that one of the members, who happens to be Ned Fulmer, would be leaving the groups following reports that Ned had an affair with one of his employees, Alex Herring, after a Reddit user shared now deleted screenshots of a video that appeared to feature Ned making out with the Try Guys associate producer at a bar in New York City. As the clip started to circulate around the internet, more videos and photos would also start to circulate of Alex and Ned on dates that looked pretty intimate, and people who posted the images even said they sent them to his wife because they were concerned. This would then force the Try Guys to post a statement which said Ned was no longer working with the Try Guys as a result of a thorough internal review. We do not see a path moving forward together. Soon after the announcement, the Try Guys even switched out their profile picture of all 4 members with the company's official logo across Instagram and Twitter before making an additional video statement clarify that they were blindsided by the news of Ned's behavior. Number 5. Will Smith. At the Oscars on March 27, 2022, Will Smith would show us all that there was something concerning going on with his mental health and state of being as he exposed his darker side. During Chris Rock's speech, he would opt to make an inappropriate joke about Jada Pinkett's shaved head. The joke clearly didn't sit well with Will, as Jada has been suffering from a condition called alopecia. So he took to the stage and smacked Rock across the face. As producers scrambled backstage, Smith would return to his seat and remain there until he accepted his award for Best Actor for his role in the film King Richard. The internet would then start to explode with their opinions on the matter, and while the Smith family mostly stayed offline, well, except for Jada, the Academy would end up banning Will from attending the ceremony for 10 years, though he can still be nominated and win an Oscar. After the ceremony, Will would make an official apology to Chris, and he would then enter into a rehabilitation facility to help him work on his mental health. Number 4. Sydney Sweeney. On August 27, Sydney Sweeney would take to her Instagram to post some images of her mother Lisa's Western-themed 60th birthday celebration, and would expose her family with photos that showed some of the relatives wearing Make America Great Again hats and Blue Lives Matter t-shirts. While the actress did not appear to make any political statements herself, while most people started to go crazy in the actor's comments, one person claiming that the actress exposed her family's political views, another asked why she was kicking it with people wearing Blue Blue Lives Matter merch. Sydney would then later come out to say, "You guys, this is wild. An innocent celebration for my mom's milestone 60th birthday party has turned into an absurd political statement which was not the intention. Please stop making assumptions. Much love to everyone and happy birthday, Mom." However, you can't really ask your fans to stop making assumptions when there's nothing really to assume, and no matter what the occasion is, it's never okay to wear any of this merchandise items, and each of her family was wearing these because it was a country themed party. But hate isn't country. Number 3. Kris Jenner. Roughly 6 months after Kanye West's feud with his ex-wife Kim Kardashian started, in September, Kanye would go after the reality TV star, and this time he would drag Kris Jenner into things and confirm that she was really the one who released Kim's tape. After Kanye hopped back onto his platform after months of disappearing, he would share several explosive messages towards Kim, and in the process he would express his disapproval towards Kim's parenting styles, as he accused her of playing games with their 4 children. In Kanye's post, he would also claim that he wanted to take control over his kids in their future by declaring, "My kids are going to Donda, they are not going to Sierra Canyon," foretelling Kris to grab her mother effing popcorn. Things would then take another turn when Kanye started to point out that Kris Jenner encourages her daughters, mainly Kim and Kylie, to appear in adult magazines and release their infamous tapes. As he was scared, Kris would make his own kids participate in the same endeavors in the future. Number 2. Amber Heard. 2022 was a big year for Amber Heard, as it would be the year the star would crash and burn after all of her lies were exposed. While Amber was hoping her dark past wouldn't catch up to her, it certainly did, and when her biggest secret was exposed after she tried to ruin Johnny Depp's career, while Amber was trying to claim that she was a public figure representing domestic abuse. However, during one point of the trial, Amber's lawyer, Ben Rottenborn, presented his opening statements where he presented a Milani Cosmetics all-in-one correcting kit to the jury and claimed that Amber had used this very concealer and correcting kit to hide and cover her bruises. However, that makeup brand wasn't even out, and it exposed Amber's lies by saying in a statement it couldn't be true because their product wasn't even available until after Amber and Johnny had gotten a divorce. In the statement, Ben said, "This is what she used. She became very adept at it." Amber and Johnny got divorced in 2016, which was before Milani's Cosmetic even launched that specific product, as it didn't come out until 2017, which means Amber lied. Number 1. Olivia Wilde. For months, the headlines have been filled with an alleged on-set feud between Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh on set of Olivia's film Don't Worry Darling, and rumors didn't paint Olivia to be as charming or sweet as we were all led to believe in the past. Despite much of the cast attempts to dampen the rumors, the tension between the two were apparently so bad that some crew members even started to claim that they had a screaming match on set. And Olivia's former nanny would even say that apparently in the beginning, Florence and Harry were close and it drove Olivia nuts, and she complained to her fiance, Jason Sudeikis, and then when she left Jason for Harry and kept taking Harry away from set, this drove Florence nuts. And then Olivia got into a feud with Shia LaBeouf before hiring Harry Styles to replace him, and she claimed that she fired Shia to keep Florence safe, but then Shia would release their text messages where you could see Olivia making fun of Florence, and you can also see why Shia quit, because he was done with Olivia's nonsense. Coming in at number 10, we have Cory Monteith's substance struggles. According to Frederick Robertson, during the early Glee days, Cory Monteith was really concerned about maintaining a clean image. When he got the role, he knew he was supposed to be a good kid, and he didn't want his past getting out. With Glee being the beginning of his success, he didn't want the world to know that he was struggling with alcohol and substances. While his struggles may have been kept a secret to the public, Cory had no problem with disclosing them to his close friends and roommate, Justin Neal. In 2008, Cory would admit to Justin about his substance use in the past and that he was trying to stay sober as it was a big part of his life. According to the docuseries, Cory started skipping school to do substances at the age of 13, and he went on to attend a dozen schools, including programs programs for troubled teens and often stole large sums of cash from his family. At the age of 19, his mother and friends staged an intervention, leading him to enter into a rehab program in 2001. It wasn't until Glee's second season that he went public with his struggles, admitting in an interview that he wanted to share his past so people didn't assume he was exactly like his all-star character Finn Hudson, by saying, "I feel like I had to step in at some point and relate to people with my experience and where I come from." Corey's publicist, Leslie Diana, also said he wanted to go public to help others, as Corey wanted to show them that you could come out on the other side and do well in life. Number 9. Corey and Leah's relationship. Glee stars Lea Michele and Cory Monteith didn't go public with their relationship until 2012, but according to Garrett Greer, an assistant to the executive producer on seasons 1 and 2, they first got together years earlier in 2009. He would go on to say they had been an item before the show premiered, and during season 1, or part of it anyway, Lea and Corey were involved, and then later the relationship came back full force. Later, Garrett would go on to describe Lea as a narcissist, and then would go on to note that the other members on the Glee set also didn't think they were a good match. Even the set decorator, Barbara Munch, would make a comment about the relationship when she said it seemed odd because it was about her always, and I think he just accepted that. Doug Kirkpatrick, head of hair department in season 3, would also go on to say that Corey and Leah's relationship also had a negative side effect on Corey's mental state, and he said a lot of Corey's confusion had a lot to do with his relationship with Lea Michele. I don't know if she was a friend. I think she was involved with him because he was on a TV show. Patrick Chinzel, a key assistant location member, would also ask the ultimate question if that Lea was good for Corey, and then he would go on to say, "I hope so, I would think so. I know other people who say maybe." That wasn't necessarily true. It seems like people didn't really understand why Corey was dating Lea, and many felt like she wasn't good enough for him. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming in at number 8, we have Naya Rivera and Lea Michele's hated each other. If you were a fan of Glee, or you watched just one episode, then you would know it's no secret that Naya, who played cheerleader Santana, and Lea, who played the dorky Glee girl no one liked, Michele, were at odds most of the time, but you may not know they were at odds in real life as well. Naya herself, who passed away in an accident while she was boating in 2020, wrote about the friction in her 2016 memoir, Sorry Not Sorry, and would write, "One of the Glee writers said that Lea and I were like two sides of the same battery, and that about sums us up. We are both strong-willed and competitive, not with each other but everyone, and that's not a good mixture." In the documentary, Naya's father, George, spoke of the pair's rivalry, and he would say there was always a fight between them, always. Everybody knew, everybody saw it. They hated each other, but at the same time respected each other's talent. George would also note that Naya even complained about Lea to production, and it would cause Naya to be briefly let go from the cast. Number 7, Naya Rivera's dad's warning. Naya Rivera's dad, George, recalled the last time he spoke to his daughter, which happened to be via FaceTime shortly before she passed away. George would go on to say, "I get a sinking feeling because we've been boating forever. I was on FaceTime with her, trying to talk her through the pitfalls. First of all, I said, Naya, you're on a pontoon boat. That's not a boat. Why are you on a pontoon boat? I said, do not jump off that effing boat. If you got an anchor, you can anchor it, but do you know how to anchor it?" We went through a couple of interactions like that, and then the FaceTime call hung up, and that was the last time I talked to her. After he received a call from authorities about his daughter, George would begin a multi-day drive from Knoxville, Tennessee to Ventura County, California, but even though he considered his daughter was a really good swimmer, he instinctively feared the worst by saying, "I knew immediately when I got the phone call in Knoxville that it was over. You don't find a drifting 5-year-old child asleep on the boat at the end of the lake without his mother and have any hope. I had no hope." And speaking about his grief, he would also say, "I don't process it. I don't know what everyone else does, but for me, it's as fresh today as it was 2 years ago." He would also later add that Naya knew she was on a really good show with lots of tragedies, and that he didn't know if you could equate that to fame, but he thought it had something to do with it. Number 6, fame. Cory Monteith's former roommate Neil said that Cory struggled with fame as Glee's popularity skyrocketed and the show's fandom intensified, by saying there was a period where it seemed Cory was getting more and more isolated. He just got to the point where he just hated Fame. He said, "I'm just so tired, I want to rest a bit, I'm sick of singing these songs," and I remember him specifically saying, "I wouldn't wish Fame on my worst enemy." Neil then continued to say, "I'd seen the fame, but I didn't realize how hard it was until then. I think with that level of fame, you lose sight of who you are to every single person. He wasn't Corey anymore, he was now Finn. We just knew he wasn't in the best place." Neil would also add in the second episode, in the documentary The Price of Glee, that Corey became frustrated with Glee's demanding schedule and wanted more freedom with his career as he had to turn down movies and he was becoming more neurotic and isolated. However, Neil did know, as much as he didn't like Fame, he knew how lucky he was and never took that for granted. Number 5. The competitive cast. The cast members in Glee were all relatively unknown before they appeared on the show, and as they begun to become a household name, their social media pages also started to take off. As Glee increased popularity, so did its stars. When the cast members' social media began to rise, they were all poised to dominate emerging platforms, but their competition wasn't always friendly according to the docu-series commentators. Doug Kirkpatrick, who was head of the hair department in season 3, would note that he would often see the actors gathered talking about how many people they acquired as followers and that it quickly became a competition. He would also say, in the beginning, they had to tweet every day, and it was Leah who really had the numbers. Journalist Andy Swift would also note that the actors started competing on their social media pages and they almost began to fight about it immediately. So it must have hurt a lot knowing that even in real life they would be inferior to Lea Michele. Number 4. Peer pressure. One of the most controversial allegations in the documentary hinted that Cory Monteith was sober before his passing, but that a co-star encouraged him to drink and it went downhill from there. In the documentary, hair department head Doug Kirkpatrick recalled one of the final times he saw Cory in the troubling story the actor allegedly told him. Doug would say he wasn't drinking, he didn't have any substances in his system, and then the very last couple of days I saw him, he was different. He was under the influence of alcohol. He said he was at a party, he hadn't been drinking, he wanted to have a drink but knew he shouldn't, and he was told by a certain cast member that same night, "You know, if you want to have a drink, you should have a drink. I'll be here for you. You can always trust that I'll be here for you." Doug also would go on to add his opinion by saying, "In my opinion, you would never say that to someone who is sober," and so that confused him and kind of made him mad, and he started drinking because he was given permission by somebody. While Doug did refuse to mention any names, he would choose to keep the alleged Glee member a secret because he wasn't there when it happened and he didn't hear the Glee member say it in person himself. However, Doug would add that Cory resented it but also took the direction and that he believes this was the moment that sent him on the path to self-destruction. Mark Salling was largely unknown before he landed the role as Noah Puck Puckerman, who was Finn's best friend, and like Cory, he was a bit older than the rest of the cast. At the time, it has been said that both Mark and Cory were 26 when Glee premiered. But according to Munch, Salling's age wasn't the only thing that made him stand out among his co-stars. Munch would say he was quieter, for sure, and kept to himself because I think he felt more of an adult than the others. Just was, you know, a bit off and he wasn't just a regular young man. He had some issues going on, it seemed obvious. Then a few months after Glee ended its 6th season run in 2015, Salling was arrested for possession of illegal photos and videos that contained younger people on them, a charge he ultimately pleaded guilty as part of a plea deal. He then took his own life on January 30th, 2018, shortly before he was scheduled to be sentenced. Even Glee director of photography Christopher Baffa from seasons 1 to 3 would say Salling's offset behavior didn't jive the person he experienced, but he acknowledged that actors are typically on their best behavior once they get around the crew. How did he get there? He was a great guy. What happened? I don't know. Number 2. Forced return. While creator Ryan Murphy now believes Glee should have ended after Cory's passing, at the time he largely left the decision up to Lea Michele. With various options on the table including a 6-month hiatus or cancelling the show altogether, Lea chose to return to work just 2 weeks after her boyfriend and co-star's passing. Back in 2013, Lea would tell Ellen, "I said we have to go back to work, we have to, they're my family." However, many of the cast members interviewed in the docuseries were not supportive of this call. Jodie Tanka said it was only a couple of weeks, all of the actors had just pulled themselves together to get back to work, everyone was kind of forced to. J.A. Byerly, a rigging gaffer on seasons 1 to 5, said Fox was conscious that Glee was about to cross the 100 episode mark, the traditional threshold for ultra profitable. They wanted a product, so we spit out a project. They were looking for 100 episodes. In October 2013, Glee paid tribute to Corey in The Quarterback, the 3rd episode of season 5, and the episode follows the members of the Glee Club as they cope with their grief in the wake of Finn's passing, honoring his memory with emotional performances of songs from Season of Love, If I Die Young, and Make You Feel My Love. Glee ultimately went on for 2 more seasons after Corey's passing, but Byerly says he was never far from the cast and crew's minds, and you could always feel an emptiness because Corey wasn't around anymore. And coming in at number 1 today, we have the Glee curse. Over the past few years, there's been much talk about the Glee curse, but the cast seem to reject this theory. Kyle Birch would say, I remember someone mentioning the Glee curse to one of the cast members, and they got pretty upset about it because they were like, no, this show is not cursed. There is no Glee curse. Eric Greer would add that bad things happen, it's life, and unfortunately with Glee there was more tragedy than any other show, but not everything can be full with sunshine and rainbows. Christopher Baffa would also add that ultimately, those close to Glee want the show to be remembered for spreading inclusivity and positivity, not tragedy. He would also say, I don't think Glee is ever going to outlive the tragedies of some of the cast tensions or some of the things that were said about it, but I'd hate to have those aspects as real as they are take away from the good that was achieved, because I do believe that good was achieved.
Number 10, iCarly's stunt double. If you want to know something that proves the people at Nickelodeon only care about money, I've got a scandal for you that was almost swept under the rug entirely. In 2014, a stunt woman from iCarly claimed that the production ruined her career by recklessly dropping her from far too high above the ground, causing some really gruesome injuries. In a stunt gone wrong, Katina Waters was supposed to be dropped slowly down from the ceiling for an episode of iCarly in 2011. She was supposed to be slowly lowered to the ground while still attached to a wire. Instead, she claims that the person operating the descender machine dropped her without warning and she crashed to the floor. The medical consequences of the incident were pretty horrific. It caused severe injuries to her leg, including fractured bones and torn ligaments. But the long-term effects on her health were even worse for her career. Waters was a highly successful stunt actor who performed in dozens of TV shows and movies, but of course she missed out on a lot of work following the incident. Subsequently, she decided to sue the producer, Schneider's Bakery, plus Nickelodeon and MTV networks for pain, suffering, and loss of earnings. And she made the right decision, as it later emerged that it wasn't the first time something like that had happened on the show. Number 9, the GAC. After seeing countless celebrities being slimed on TV for years, there was an extremely high demand for Nickelodeon to release their iconic gooey green sludge to the public. This led the network to release what they called GAC into toy stores across the country in 1992, much to the delight of 90s kids everywhere. The product wasn't exactly slime that they had on the Nick shows, it was more like a squishy putty that made funny noises when you pressed it between your hands. Kids also loved the name GAC because not only was it onomatopoeia, but it also just sounded like how the product felt. However, the branding turned out to be a highly controversial decision, as the name itself was common street lingo for illicit street substances. In fact, it was literally a term for the substance that goes onto a spoon. The story goes that while someone on the Nick crew was working with the then nameless slime one day, they nicknamed it GAC, which became a naughty inside joke on set because of its meaning. Game show host Mark Summers was in on the joke too, and eventually started saying it live on air, but Nickelodeon's marketing department allegedly had no idea and just cluelessly went along with it. Number 8, the voice of Dora. The network had a really big mess on their hands when Caitlin Sanchez, the teenager who starred on Dora the Explorer until she reached puberty, alleged that when she made the deal with Nickelodeon to voice the iconic character, she was given just 22 minutes to sign the contract without an experienced lawyer. The young star did so under duress, with the alleged promise that she'd receive residuals for her work, plus money from merchandising. This was in 2007, years before Dora the Explorer was established as an $11 billion global brand. So in 2010, Caitlin sued Nickelodeon and MTV networks for making her sign what she believed was a terrible contract that conned her out of millions, specifically citing unpaid work hours, as well as being paid only $40 for promotional appearances. The legal battle made headlines throughout the world thanks to statements made by Caitlin's attorney that if Nickelodeon refuses to pay up by a certain date, he would expose their humiliating secrets. But the young voice actor ended up settling for $500,000, but then tried to re-sue because she and her family thought that the lawyer acted fraudulently and didn't tell her that most of the settlement would be eaten by taxes and lawyer fees. But to fans, the whole settlement just proved that the network certainly had something to hide. Number 7. Chris Savino. Once it was exposed, the massive scandal that was a PR nightmare for Nickelodeon was akin to the network's own version of Harvey Weinstein. In 2017, Nick was forced to fire one of its most prominent showrunners, Chris Savino, over allegations made by at least a dozen women. Savino, who has been in the business since the early 90s, previously worked on such animated shows as Dexter's Laboratory and the Powerpuff Girls, and was the creator of Nick's second highest rated kids show at the time, Loud House, which centers on a boy's life while dealing with a house full of sisters. According to Cartoon Brew, as many as 12 women came forward to accuse Savino of predatory behavior, including unwanted sexual advances and threats of blacklisting after the relationships with co-workers had ended. What's even more disturbing is that the site said that the reports date back at least a decade. One woman said that she didn't accept an offer to work at Nickelodeon simply because Savino worked there. She alleged that when they both worked for Disney, he sent her explicit text messages and photos, and once offered her a job in exchange for inappropriate things. Ann Walker Farrell, the director of BoJack Horseman, also came forward with her own Savino horror story from the early 2000s, when both of them worked at Cartoon Network. Just goes to show you how cases involving power and inappropriate behavior infect almost every corner of Hollywood. Number 6. Zoey 101. The show was a boarding school set dramedy that hit Nickelodeon in January of 2005. Starring as protagonist Zoe Brooks, Jamie Lynn Spears was reportedly brought on by its creator Dan Schneider, all because she looked a lot like her older sister and superstar Britney Spears. But little did fans know there was actually a scandal brewing behind the set, as its star was just 16 when she fell pregnant, which would have been a bombshell for the very PG show. In her memoir, Things I Should Have Said, Jamie Lynn Spears confessed that her team decided that her pop star sister should not be told about her pregnancy because it was too risky. Quote, "The entire Spears team was already caught up in my sister's PR difficulties, and everyone around me just wanted to make this issue disappear." From there, her family and management pulled her out of school until they could figure out what to do next, and even took away her phone for fear that the news would get out. As a result, the actress said that even her father stopped talking to her. But once the news was released, Nickelodeon immediately released a statement saying, "We respect Jamie Lynn's decision to take responsibility in this sensitive and personal situation." And after wrapping shooting for the 4th season of Zoey 101, the network cancelled the series altogether. Number 5. Jason Biggs. In the early seasons of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Nickelodeon, Jason Biggs could be heard voicing lead turtle Leonardo, but scandal quickly erupted at the network when it was revealed that his social media activity was offensive enough that there were many calls to Nickelodeon to protest his involvement with the show. So in 2014, after only 2 seasons, he was ultimately replaced by Seth Green on the popular series, and for a good reason. Jason's Twitter in the 2010s was a PR nightmare. In fact, there didn't seem to be any topic too controversial for him to joke about, like a Bachelorette contestant who died, a plane crash, the Pope, women's basketball, and sexually explicit comments about the politician Paul Ryan's wife. But the jokes backfired big time when the official Ninja Turtles Twitter account gave a shout out to Jason's personal account and encouraged their followers to check it out. It's safe to say that the kid-friendly and PG network is not pleased with the immense backlash that they started receiving from parenting groups and conservative bloggers, eventually leading them to release a statement apologizing, while Fox News host Megyn Kelly called the American Pie actor a disgusting pig and called for him to be fired. Ultimately, the network responded to the pressure and gave Jason the boot. Number 4. Angelique Bates. The actress who was one of the original cast members on Nick's sketch comedy show All That exposed the reality behind the cameras when she spoke to the Shade Room in 2016. Angelique explained some of the horror she endured, such as physical, emotional, and mental mistreatment from her mother in front of producers who not only turned the other cheek, but strongly urged her to just accept the violence and remain silent. She said that she was only 12 years old when the nightmare began, and that the producers and cast members could hear her yelling, but nothing was done to help her. According to Angelique, Child Protective Services did eventually show up in 1996, but she said that the adults on set pressured her to stay silent. Possibly in an attempt to muddy the waters or save her own skin, Angelique's mother, Dee Bates, came forward in support of her daughter, although she tried to shift the blame onto the network. Whatever the case with her mother's questionable side of the story, the former child star also explained that she was pretty much released from her contract at age 15 and claimed that she was blackballed by the entertainment industry as a result. But to this day, Nickelodeon have never come forward with an official response to the accusations. Number 3. Victorious. Canadian actor Evan Jogia had his breakthrough role playing Beck Oliver in Victorious, but after Jennette McCurdy's bombshell allegations regarding Dan Schneider, fans really started to question whether or not he had the same experience. In a recent TikTok video, Evan admitted that he did not actually remember filming the series at all, because he was blackout drunk almost every night. Quote, "When you don't remember a single plotline to a single Victorious episode, but you do remember going out partying every night." When one fan added that the show seemed like a fever dream to her, Evan just said, "Me too, and I was there." And when another fan asked, "So Beck was hungover all the time?" he just said yes. This admission was significant because in Jennette's new memoir, she talks about the creator pressuring her to drink while she was underage, allegedly saying, quote, "The Victorious kids get drunk all the time. The iCarly kids are so wholesome. We need to give you guys a little edge." Sometime later, she claims that Schneider got into trouble with Nickelodeon for inappropriate behavior with the young cast and was not allowed to be near the actors anymore, meaning that he had to direct them from a separate control room. So it's entirely possible that he was creeping on more than just one actor. Number 2. Jennette McCurdy. The iCarly star recently released her new memoir, which has been described as both heartbreaking and hilarious. The blunt title, "I'm Glad My Mom Died," shocked fans upon its release, because it reveals what really went on behind the cameras, something that up until now fans have only been able to really speculate about. Jennette exposed her traumatic experiences on Nick, and the disturbing truth about how she was mistreated by her mother, who pushed her to be a child star, noting that her own persona that she was known for throughout her youth and her young adult life was all a front forced upon her by her mom, who in addition to everything else was extremely physically inappropriate with her. Jennette also discusses the perils of young fame and reveals that she developed an eating disorder as a child, and talks about why she ultimately quit acting altogether. She also goes into great detail of numerous instances where she felt exploited as an actor both on and off set, describing the creator as mean-spirited, controlling, and terrifying. The former Nick star recalled a time when she was filming an episode of iCarly that he insisted that she wear a bikini instead of a one-piece swimsuit, which she was much more comfortable with. Number 1. Drake and Josh. This show was one of the most popular shows on Nickelodeon in the early 2000s. Starring Drake Bell and Josh Peck, the sitcom was one of the network's most successful projects from that time. So when the truth finally came out, fans were understandably left disillusioned and upset. Nobody knew that behind the scenes, Josh heavily struggled with addiction. Looking to feel better about himself, the actor explained in an interview that he lost 127 pounds in an 18-month time span while filming the show. But when that didn't bring him happiness, he admitted that he turned to alcohol and illicit substances for help. But that was nothing compared to the revelation that his co-star was caught grooming young fans. In July of 2021, Drake Bell pled guilty to attempted endangering of children and disseminating harmful materials to juveniles after a young woman came forward and accused him of predatory behavior. The 19-year-old, who chose to remain anonymous, claimed that he began talking to her when she was 12. The actor managed to get away with 2 years on probation and 200 hours of community service. But at 36 years old, Drake Bell's reputation is now irreparably tarnished. Number 10. Portia de Rossi. In her 2010 groundbreaking memoir, Unbearable Lightness, Portia de Rossi reveals the pain and illness that haunted her for decades, from a time she was a 12-year-old girl working as a model in Australia through her early rise to fame as a cast member of the hit television show Ally McBeal. She also detailed her struggles with and while living in the public eye, and recounted how she survived on 300 calories a day and took 20 laxatives daily, trying to maintain a weight of 82 pounds. According to her memoir, Portia both starved herself and putting her life in danger and concealing from herself and everyone around her the seriousness of her illness, and described the elaborate rituals around food that came to dominate hours of every day. The actress did this all while terrified that the truth of her sexuality would be exposed in the tabloids, and revealed the heartache and fear that comes from living a life in the closet, which was only magnified by her unrelenting desire to be thinner, more in control of her body, and the number of calories she consumed and spent. But it wasn't wasn't all bad. Portia also recounted how falling in love with Ellen DeGeneres helped her develop a healthy body image, embrace her sexual orientation, and gain inner peace. Number 9. Janice Dickinson. A strange encounter with Bill Cosby in 1982 was described in the 2002 memoir No Lifeguard on Duty by the self-anointed world's first supermodel Janice Dickinson. In her book, she reveals real moments that she experienced with Cosby and goes into great detail when it comes to taking back the narrative. Janice mentioned how Cosby allegedly answered his hotel room door in nothing but a towel and kissed her. He then took her to dinner and suggested that she follow him back upstairs. The memoir was pretty explosive at the time and would come back into relevance in 2018 when she chose to testify in court to Cosby's crimes. The comedian was once known to millions as America's Dad, famous for his clean brand of family comedy and his award-winning work with children's programming. So Janice's memoir really did help expose Cosby's double life, as eventually more than 50 women came out claiming that the star slipped them illicit substances and took advantage of them while they were unconscious. And in April of 2018, an 80-year-old Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison, although he would eventually be released in 2021. Number 8. Corey Feldman. In his deeply personal 2013 memoir, child star and teen heartthrob Corey Feldman exposes the darkness that loomed behind his rise to fame. Although he undoubtedly had a successful career, famous friendships, and high-profile relationships, Corey reveals a side to his star-studded life that no one knew about, and it's full of tragedy. He came from a broken family that he emancipated himself from at the age of 15. As a teenager, he suffered physical, emotional, and sexual violence. The Stand By Me star was also arrested and struggled with addiction throughout his time as a successful working actor. But most shockingly, Corey also implied that his close friend Corey Haim's lifelong battle with addiction was the result of being preyed upon by a powerful older man. Following the book's publication came rampant speculations about the identity of the offender, and it's something that readers still argue about to this day. His memoir, Choreography, weaves a heartbreaking story of pain and survival that reveals just how dark the industry can really be. Number 7. Holly Madison. Former Playboy bunny and Girls Next Door star Holly Madison dished on how oppressive life with Hugh Hefner really was in 2015's Down the Rabbit Hole. Madison described the many bizarre rules and rituals that Hefner imposed upon his girlfriends. For instance, that they needed to wear matching flannel pajamas, engage in group dressed in tiny skirts and bralettes, and had a daily curfew of 9 p.m. The memoir tells the story of Madison's time with Hefner from 2001 to 2008 and its aftermath. She goes into great detail about the reality of her life behind the cameras, how her depression in the Playboy mansion reached harrowing depths, yet she felt trapped there. She also opened up about her unwillingness to admit to anyone how sad she really was, and Hefner's emotional control over her. The book also explores her time on the reality show The Girls Next Door and the weirdness that was pop culture in the early 2000s. When speaking about her book, Holly said, quote, "I felt like I had something to say about being in the midst of that whole thing that was going on where Paris Hilton and Jessica Simpson and Kendra was so celebrated, and I was a part of it too, for being dumb on TV. Part of the reason I wanted to write the book was to show the other side of it," which goes to show you just how much of it was all for the cameras. Number 6. Shania Twain. The Grammy-winning country singer confronted her childhood demons when she wrote her 2011 memoir From This Moment On, describing how her stepfather Jerry was physically, sexually, and verbally violent towards her and her mother Sharon. In a frank and often shocking autobiography, the singer reveals graphic and personal details about her rags to riches story and the price of ambition and success. Throughout her memoir, it also became clear that Shania experienced a harrowing degree of poverty and hunger. For instance, she claimed that sometimes there was only bread and mustard for her and her 4 siblings to eat, and they often wore plastic bread bags to cover their shoes to protect their feet during winter, and regularly went to school without lunch. The singer also had to deal with a double betrayal in her life. She wrote about the heartache that she went through when she found out about the affair between her husband of 14 years, Robert Lang, and her best friend. As a result, Shania became so distraught that she literally lost her voice to spasmodic dysphonia, which left her unable to sing. So her memoir explores how she worked through all that heartbreak. Number 5. Sharon Stone. She became a Hollywood icon and a household name after her role in Basic Instinct, and in a 2021 memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, she finally reveals the vulnerability behind her femme fatale persona. She goes into great detail about her experiences in Hollywood, like how she was tricked into that famous shot in Basic Instinct, and ill-equipped for fame when it finally came to her. She was also routinely taken advantage of in the male-dominated film industry. She claims that the filmmakers were not entirely honest about what they captured with the camera, and so they didn't have her complete consent to put that scene in the film. Quote, "I do think we have to create a think tank that really addresses what is a crime, what is a felony, what is consent." The name of her memoir actually comes from a life-changing brain hemorrhage that she suffered in 2001 that almost killed her. It left her without the basic ability to function, and she ended up losing her family, her career, and a huge part of her life, which she had to start again from the ground up. Stone also talks about how she went through a childhood of and violence to a career in an industry that actually brought back a lot of those memories for her, although in Hollywood it was all hidden under the cover of money and glamour. Number 4. Leah Remini. A former longtime Scientologist, King of Queens star Leah Remini opened up about her experiences in the church in her 2015 memoir, Troublemaker. As a teenager in the church's Sea organization, Remini said that she was reprimanded for sunning by the pool at the Scientology-run Sandcastle Hotel in Florida, and as a punishment was taken out to sea on a boat, thrown overboard, and nearly drowned by a group leader. Not only that, but she was also once fined $40,000 after confessing to stealing food from the headquarters 20 years earlier. In her memoir, Leah also made some shocking allegations about several well-known Hollywood celebrities. In fact, she recalled a time that her and her husband, Angelo, spent time at Tom Cruise's Beverly Hills mansion when he invited a group of well-known Scientologists and other celebrities, including the Smiths. She actually called Will and Jada Pinkett Smith famous friends of the church, and even mentioned the Scientology school that they opened, revealing that despite Jada's denial, she is indeed good friends with Tom Cruise and an active member of the controversial religion. Number 3. Jennette McCurdy. Described as both heartbreaking and hilarious, iCarly star Jennette McCurdy's bluntly titled memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, gives fans a glimpse into what really went on behind the cameras, something that up until now fans have only been able to speculate about. Jennette exposes her traumatic experiences on Nickelodeon and the disturbing truth about how she was mistreated by her mother, who pushed her to be a child star, noting that the persona she was known for throughout her youth and her young adult life was a front forced upon her by her mom, who, in addition to everything else, was extremely physically inappropriate with both her and her brother, even when they were teenagers. Jennette also discusses the perils of young fame and reveals that she developed anorexia as a child, and talks about why she ultimately quit acting altogether. She also details numerous instances where she felt exploited as a teen actor, both on and off set. The actress refers to the person behind the demands as simply the creator throughout the memoir, never naming them. She simply describes them as mean-spirited, controlling, and terrifying, calling a time when she was filming an episode of iCarly that he insisted that she wear a bikini instead of a one-piece swimsuit, which she preferred. The revelations in her new book are absolutely shocking, and they really expose the traumatic experience of being a child star. Number 2. Christina Crawford. At the height of her fame in the 1940s, Joan Crawford had a considerable reputation to uphold. She won a 1945 Best Actress Academy Award for the lead role in Mildred Pierce. She lived in a beautiful house in Brentwood, LA, and used her wealth to adopt and raise 4 children, including Christina Crawford. For all of this, Joan was celebrated in the public eye and had extensive magazine spreads about her happy family life. But to her daughter, the facade was a complete lie, and eventually her frustration at the discrepancy between her mother's private existence and her public reputation bubbled over. In 1978, she published Mummy Dearest, which told the truth about her mother's character, that she was a sadistic perfectionist. It was the first tell-all celebrity memoir to talk so openly about childhood, and subsequently was a worldwide sensation upon its release. In fact, it stayed at the top of the New York Times bestseller list for 42 weeks, and even resulted in the 1981 film adaptation starring Faye Dunaway that would go on to become a cult hit. To this day, most people associate Joan Crawford with that infamous scene where she launches into a vicious tirade after discovering Christina's dresses were hung up on wire clothes hangers. So it's safe to say that her reputation never recovered. Hollywood. And coming in at number 1, Rose McGowan. In her 2018 memoir Brave, the outspoken actress takes readers behind the scenes of her life in Hollywood, where she has become known as one of the fiercest and realest women fighting to expose the ugly truth about Harvey Weinstein and the systematic misogyny that has defined the industry for so long. The most outspoken of all of Weinstein's accusers, McGowan opens up about when she first met the movie mogul at the Sundance Film Festival, but only refers to him in her book as the monster. She was at the premiere of her 1997 film Going All the Way when he sat behind her. The next day she was sent to his hotel room, where the two talked about films and her acting goals. But as he walked her out, McGowan writes that he pushed her into his bathroom, forcibly backed her into the wall, and ripped off her clothes. But most shockingly, after the incident, the actress was driven to a photo op with her Phantoms co-star Ben Affleck. When she told him what happened, he simply said, "Damn it, I told him to stop doing that." Her memoir couldn't be more relevant to current events, as to date, 84 women have come forward with allegations against Weinstein, and he is currently serving a prison sentence of 23 years. Number 10. Mark Wahlberg. In 2013, a series of leaked court documents suggested that Tom Cruise had compared working on a film to being as intense as fighting in Afghanistan. It's safe to say that this statement did not go down well with Mark Wahlberg. Later down the line, while he was promoting his film Lone Survivor, which was based on actual events of the failed 2005 mission Operation Red Wings, where Mark played the role of a Navy SEAL. When asked about the difficulty of shooting the film, he went on an angry rant. Quote, "For actors to sit there and talk about, oh, I went to SEAL training and I slept on the floor. I don't give an F what you did. You don't do what these guys did. For somebody to sit there and say, my job was as difficult as somebody in the military's, how effing dare you, while you sit in a makeup chair for 2 hours." He added that at the end of the day, actors get to go home, go to their hotel room and order effing chicken. Tom's lawyers then jumped in very quickly and claimed that the actor was only joking, and in fact is a staunch supporter of the troops. But the tension was very clearly real.
Number 9. Jim Carrey's origins. A Canadian legend, Jim Carrey is considered one of the greatest modern comedians of all time. He famously released 3 films in the year 1995, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and Ace Ventura, all of which made millions at the box office and still hold up to this day, except for a couple scenes in Ace Ventura, but we won't get into that. As many know, comedians tend to have a pretty rough backstory, as the best comedy comes from a place of pain. Over the years, Jim has come clean about his strange but fun upbringing. His family struggled financially, and he grew up watching his mother struggle with depression, which he claims to have been passed down to him. Despite his energy, he was a bit of a recluse growing up, and apparently he spent hours in his room making faces in the mirror instead of hanging out with his friends. After dropping out of high school to work a full-time job, Jim and his family were actually forced to live in a Volkswagen van together, becoming homeless for a short period of time. He went on to attempt a career in comedy, at first to minimal success, but of course he was able to find his footing and made his place in comedy history.
Number 8. Brooke Shields. Telling women what they can and can't wear is one way to make yourself extremely unpopular among the female demographic, but telling them how to give birth is a different kind of insult entirely. Just ask Brooke Shields after she had to deal with public shaming from Tom Cruise, who went on the record criticizing her decision to use antidepressants to help her with postpartum depression. Quote, "When someone says medication has helped them, it is to cope. It didn't cure anything. There is no science. There is nothing that can cure them whatsoever." And if that wasn't condescending enough for you, he added, "I care about Brooke Shields because I think she's an incredibly talented woman, but look at where her career has gone." But Brooke was not having it and took the opportunity to stand up for herself and new mothers everywhere. She said, "Tom should stick to saving the world from aliens and let women who are experiencing postpartum depression decide what treatment options are best for them." Adding that, "I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Mr. Cruise has never suffered from postpartum depression." She called his comments a disservice to mothers everywhere and said that if any good can come of Mr. Cruise's ridiculous rants, let's hope that it gives much needed attention to a serious disease. Number 7. Brad Pitt. Although the two A-list actors have a lot in common, especially when it comes to their careers, they allegedly couldn't be more at odds with each other. In fact, rumors have it that they have been feuding for 25 years, and it all started with one movie, 1994's Interview with a Vampire. The hit horror film where both actors had starring roles really ignited their resentment for one another. And even though the film was nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe upon its release, Brad said that he was miserable on set and that Tom being there certainly didn't help. And when asked about his co-star in an interview, Brad did not bother to hold back his feelings at all. Quote, "He bugged me. There came a point during filming when I started really resenting him. He's North Pole, I'm South. He's always coming at you with a handshake whereas I may bump into you. There was this underlying competition that got in the way of any real conversation." Fast forward to 2009, when both actors were starring in World War II dramas, Brad in Inglourious Basterds and Tom in Valkyrie. Not only was Brad's film way better received, but to add insult to injury, he reportedly called Tom's film a ridiculous movie. Number 6. Nicole Kidman. Although it's been over for decades, Nicole Kidman's marriage to Tom Cruise is still one of Hollywood's most talked about relationships. But at the time of meeting, he was still married to Mimi Rogers. Tom eventually divorced his first wife in February of 1990, and less than 1 year later, he exchanged vows with Nicole. They even adopted 2 children, Isabella Jane and Connor Anthony, and eventually went on to make 2 more movies together as a couple. But as we all know, their marriage was far from perfect, and they ended up splitting up a decade later in 2001. Looking back on the divorce, Nicole said, quote, "I was so young when I got married. I look back now and I'm like, what?" She told Red Magazine that she felt isolated during her marriage, and even when she won an Oscar, she described it as, "I was holding a gold statue and I was the loneliest I'd ever been." The divorce took Nicole by surprise, and it got very messy very quickly with the custody battle. In the end, Tom allegedly turned her children against her, as he was granted full custody of their kids, and ended up raising both of them to be Scientologists. But despite all the heartbreak, nothing beats that iconic photo of Nicole leaving her attorney's office, jumping for joy after their divorce was finalized. Number 5. Alec Baldwin. Another celebrity who has had no trouble calling out Tom Cruise was fellow actor Alec Baldwin in 2009. The Dirty Rock star hosted Elle Magazine's Women in Hollywood dinner and award show, and what he said had even Tom's wife at the time, Katie Holmes, laughing along with everyone. The actor joked about coming up with a solution to the disproportionate salaries between men and women in Hollywood, and then seemingly came up with an idea to solve the pay gap. Quote, "I believe we can balance the scales if Tom Cruise would lower his quote by a mere $29 million. I realize this may be a little bit unfair since he's not here to defend himself, and I really don't want to put all of this on one man, but if I had to, that man would be Tom Cruise." He went on to assure the audience that his own salary was nothing compared to Tom's. In fact, his annual salary, as he said, is the budget from mints that were featured in one of his movies. But as the saying goes, there really is a grain of truth in every joke. According to Variety, the actor is expected to earn $100 million or more from his new movie Top Gun Maverick, which would be one of the biggest paydays for an actor for a single movie ever. Number 4. Leah Remini. A former longtime Scientologist, King of Queens star Leah Remini opened up about her experiences in the church in her 2015 memoir Troublemaker, much to the disdain of Tom Cruise. In her book, Leah also made some shocking allegations about several well-known Hollywood celebrities. In fact, she recalled a time that she and her husband, Angelo, spent time at Tom Cruise's Beverly Hills mansion, when he invited a group of well-known Scientologists and other celebrities including Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. He announced to all the guests that he wanted to play hide and seek and pressured everyone to join in. Remini also explained another bizarre incident when Tom had a meltdown over cookies. Quote, "Once he wanted to make cookies, and there was a package of pre-packaged cookie dough on the counter. He asked, 'Guys, where's the cookie stuff?' Tom seemed like a child who had never been told no, and he screamed at his assistant." And when Top Gun Maverick came out, Remini cautioned fans about supporting him, saying, "Don't let the movie star charm fool you. And no, I will not watch the movie, nor will I ever support or approve of this scam of a man." So she is clearly not one to forgive or forget. Number 3. Katie Holmes. Back in 2012, the former Hollywood power couple Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes announced to the world that they were getting a divorce after 6 years of marriage. News of the A-list split sent shockwaves through the world of show business and sparked waves of rumors and speculation as to why the pair decided to call it quits. After a whirlwind romance, the couple got married in a luxurious Italian wedding ceremony and welcomed their first child together, Suri Cruise. So their divorce came as a shock to everyone. The major reason was allegedly Katie's aversion to raising their daughter in Scientology. Tom basically confirmed this during a 2013 deposition, admitting that this was one of the reasons that his ex-wife filed for divorce. He also revealed that his daughter, Suri, who was just 7 years old at the time, was no longer a practicing member of the Church of Scientology. This was a pretty surprising admission, considering that those who leave the religion are often cut off from other practicing members, which is probably why Katie won sole custody of Suri, which reportedly included ironclad rulings that she would not be exposed to anything Scientology related. And to this day, it appears as though the former couple aren't exactly on good terms, as Tom reportedly hasn't even seen his daughter in years. Number 2. Mickey Rourke. In a new interview with Piers Morgan Uncensored, the boxer-turned-actor was asked about Tom Cruise, and he made it quite clear that he wasn't a fan at all. It was mentioned that his new movie, Top Gun Maverick, made over $1 billion at the box office, and Rourke said, "That doesn't mean jack to me. This guy's been doing the same effing part for 35 years. I got no respect for that." Rourke went on to list some of the actors whose careers he does enjoy and admire, unlike Tom's. And when Morgan asked whether or not he thinks of Cruise as a good actor, Rourke just said, "I think he's irrelevant in my world." And back in 2005, when Tom criticized Brooke Shields for taking antidepressants, Mickey spoke out against him then. Quote, "My therapist saved my effing life and my career. I don't care what Tom Cruise says about therapy. F him." Picking on poor Brooke Shields. People need medicine and they need therapists. Let the Scientologists go effing live on a planet of their own. He was referring to the fact that Scientologists strictly oppose psychiatry and therapy as it goes against their core beliefs. So he's made it pretty clear that he doesn't think very highly of the Hollywood star. And coming in at number 1, John Travolta. Both are active, high-ranking members of the Church of Scientology, but it has been since revealed that the two are not exactly friends. The truth came out when a former bodyguard from the church, Brendan Teague, revealed in 2018 that John Travolta was furious when Tom achieved the highest honor in the organization in 2008. He was awarded the Freedom Medal of Valor from the leader of the organization, David Miscavige. This award is only given to its most dedicated member. John was also said to be frustrated over the fact that Tom has become a major player in the church, and to this day is one of the best known members in the world. Brendan Teague claimed that this event left Travolta feeling extremely jealous. Eventually he grew so angry that he decided to express himself and wrote a scathing letter to Miscavige, which reportedly included the question, "What the hell was this medal all about?" The reason being is that the actor believed himself to be the most dedicated member of the church, and had allegedly introduced more members than any other celebrity. So when he was passed over for the award, John began to despise Tom. It didn't help that only 2 years earlier, John wasn't invited to Tom's wedding with Katie Holmes, so their relationship was already rocky to begin with.
First up, of course, we have Mariah Carey. Even if you're not familiar with many of JLo's feuds, I'm sure you know that Mariah Carey hates her. That's because Mariah has not been shy about throwing shade in her direction. These two have been feuding ever since JLo started to make music, and started to steal her shine. Then when Mariah was asked about Lopez in an interview, she famously replied, quote, "I don't know her." Years later, when Andy Cohen brought up the beef on his show Watch What Happens Live in 2014, Jennifer Lopez played the whole thing off, saying, quote, "I don't have a feud against her at all. I know from back in the day, I've read things that she said about me that were not the greatest, but we have never met. Like, we don't know each other. I would love to meet her, and I would love to be friends with her." But then JLo was a little more savage on the Wendy Williams show when asked about the feud in 2016. Lopez said, quote, "She's forgetful, I guess. We've met so many times." But Carey doubled down in another interview where she added that she still doesn't know Jennifer Lopez. When Mariah had a mishap of her own during a disastrous New Year's Eve performance, Lopez took a break from the high road and liked an extremely shady tweet about Mariah. The tweet said, quote, "Ever seen an accident you couldn't take your eyes away from? That was her tonight." If you're wondering where this feud started, it all goes back to Mariah's ex-husband and music executive, Tommy Mottola. After getting married in 1993, Carey divorced Mottola in 1998 because he was very controlling. And to get back at her, Mottola started up JLo's career and did everything possible to make JLo a star, instead of Mariah. J-Lo sampled a number of Mariah-esque songs. There were even allegations she straight up copied some of Mariah's songs, but tried to make them more of a hit. All because of Mottola. But Mariah knows she still came out on top, adding quote, "After all that shit, Loverboy ended up being the best-selling single of 2001 in the United States." So basically the whole feud is over career competition and the fact that Lopez was in cahoots with Carrie's controlling ex. Rosie Perez. You'd think that J-Lo and Rosie Perez would be great friends, considering how much they have in common. Both women are dancers, are Puerto Rican, and grew up in New York. But the pair are not close, and it would be more accurate to say that they actually hate each other. According to Perez's 2014 memoir, Handbook for an Unpredictable Life, she has plenty of negative stories to share about J-Lo. In her memoir, Perez shared a story from the set of In Living Color. She wrote about Lopez, quote, "All of the girls were coming into my office complaining how she was manipulating wardrobe, makeup, and me, all to her advantage," and added she was acting like, quote, "some ghetto bitch," screaming and pounding her chest. J-Lo ended up leaving that show after 2 seasons, but the feud between the pair continued, and Perez claimed that Lopez would speak negatively about her whenever she got the chance. Even worse, Lopez was allegedly two-faced. She would talk trash behind Perez's back, but be nice to her face. Brandy. In the midst of the Mariah and J-Lo feud, Brandy publicly supported Mariah, making it clear she does not like J-Lo. In July of 2017, Brandy took to Instagram to share a photo of herself hugging Mariah Carey with the caption, #SheKnows Me, an obvious reference to Mariah's infamous "I don't know her" comment about J-Lo. All the comments were flooded with people speculating over the caption, and the consensus quickly became that the photo was a dig at J-Lo. However, Brandy later addressed the caption, writing quote, "Oh my god, what happened? I swear to goodness, I didn't know what the fuss is about. I love this pic and now everyone thinks I'm throwing shade. At who? This is funny. Can't take this one down. I love this picture and whenever I'm throwing shade, it's not questionable, you know that I am." Later adding that Mariah does in fact know her. Mariah supported the post by commenting, quote, "I sure do." Even though Brandy is trying to convince us it's nothing shady, I honestly don't believe it. Next up, Nicki Minaj. It's long been rumored that Jennifer Lopez is a huge diva, and the fight that her and Nicki Minaj had while on American Idol brought up both of their diva sides. In 2012, Lopez was a judge on American Idol while Nicki came on to perform, and things got tense fast. After Nicki finished performing, she went over to the judges table and asked, quote, "I was hoping maybe I could come back and be a guest judge. J-Lo, can you scoot over a little bit?" J-Lo then responded, quote, "I don't know if there's enough room for both of us." Then Minaj took it up another notch backstage when she said, quote, "She didn't seem to be having it, but she's gonna have it." But she later added, quote, "We were just joking around." But it's clear the bad blood is still there. When Lopez performed at the 2015 AMAs, she sang a part of Minaj's song Anaconda. But I don't think Nicki got the memo that it was going to be happening, because when the camera panned to Nicki, she did not look happy. Fans totally saw the shade and started tweeting about it that night. Rihanna. Rihanna and J-Lo started feuding right around the time that J-Lo was seen getting cozy with Rihanna's ex, Drake. This all happened in 2016 when J-Lo and Drake took a photo backstage at J-Lo's concert. Once the photos came out, everyone assumed that they were dating, which probably got the attention of his exes. A lot of fans felt the whole thing was most likely a publicity stunt, but Rihanna took the rumors pretty seriously and lashed out online because of it. A source said at the time that Rihanna suffered, quote, "the ultimate betrayal," and dubbed Lopez desperate and a traitor. This was because Rihanna and J-Lo were really tight at one point, and Rihanna even got support from J-Lo during rough times with Drake. Then in December of 2016, Rihanna unfollowed J-Lo on Instagram, making her stance very clear. Jenna Dewan. When the pair started alongside each other on World of Dance, they seemed like they got along great. Lopez was a producer and a judge, while Dewan was a host and mentor on the show. But sources revealed that when the camera stopped rolling, the women hated each other. One source said about their relationship, quote, "Jenna can't stand Jen's over-the-top theatrical fakery. Jen never fails to ham it up when the cameras are rolling, and she hijacks the show. It seems she'd prefer if Jenna just stayed in the background." The insider continued that J-Lo is a micromanager who tells everyone else what to do. Because of all her input, Jenna felt excluded and felt like her voice was not heard. Although there is a chance that this feud is not accurate, because when Dewan's team was asked about the feud rumors, they denied them. Ojani Noah. Jennifer Lopez has been married 3 times before. Her first and shortest marriage was to Cuban waiter Ojani Noah. Although their relationship ended in 1998, it's clear that Noah cannot stand her, and whenever asked about Lopez, he does not hold back his negative feelings. Back in 2006, he was actually set to release a juicy tell-all book about Lopez called The Unknown Truth, a passionate portrait of a serial thriller. But before it was set to be published, Lopez was able to stop it with a lawsuit. She argued that publishing the book broke their confidentiality agreement, and the courts agreed. From that lawsuit, she won $545,000 in damages, and Noah was forbid from criticizing or casting in a negative light or otherwise disparaging Lopez. Noah's name was brought up once again when he threatened to leak an intimate tape of the two of them on their honeymoon. Lopez then filed a $10 million lawsuit against him. When asked why the relationship ended, Noah blamed Lopez, saying, quote, "I was looking forward to being with her for the rest of my life. It didn't happen. She made the choice of her career instead of me." And finally, Jennifer Lopez herself. Nobody has done more to warn us about JLo's sketchy behavior than herself, and some of the things she's done in the past are too terrible to ignore. Back when she tried to score a role in competition with actress Claire Danes, JLo said some harsh things about her competition, saying that Claire Danes does the quote, "same thing with every character she does." Then Lopez bashed Winona Ryder, saying that she was not a big fan of her work. And finally, Lopez took aim at Gwyneth Paltrow, saying, quote, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God I don't remember anything she was in. Some people get hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work." Then in a different interview, Lopez decided to take aim at Madonna, specifically bashing Madonna's attempt at acting. Quote, "Do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do, so I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft." Aside from dishing out unnecessary shade to other celebrities, Lopez also has a reputation for being incredibly rude to service people. One United Airlines employee told the press how much of a diva she was during her flight. Apparently he asked if she wanted a drink, and she replied, quote, "I just said, what can I get you to drink?" But Jennifer refused to even acknowledge me. She turned her head away and told her personal assistant, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime." Even though the stewardess was trying to serve her what she wanted, she refused to look, and made her assistant speak for her. It's so ridiculous and an unnecessary power play. But this interaction is nothing compared to the maid that was fired for asking JLo for an autograph. The maid later spoke with media and said she asked JLo's two assistants, who rejected the autograph. Then a day later, the hotel said that Lopez complained about the incident, and that maid was fired. First up, of course, we have Chris Rock. The person who has shown the world the true dynamic of the Smith family is definitely Chris Rock. After Will smacked Chris on stage at the Oscars, the world got to see a different side of Will, and it was shocking. While comedian Chris Rock was speaking to the crowd and taking some dig at the celebrities in the audience, Rock decided to take a jab at Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm sure you know what happens next. Chris said, quote, "Jada, love you, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it," referencing her almost bald head, because in the movie G.I. Jane, the lead actress Demi Moore had a shaved head. Jada has been open about her struggle with alopecia, and that's why she shaved her head that night. Immediately after the joke, Will Smith decided to get up, interrupt the broadcast, and slap Chris Rock in the face for millions to see. Chris looked stunned and was not sure exactly how to respond. Will then walked back to his seat and yelled, quote, "Shut your mouth, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth," twice. After the slap, Rock looked completely stunned, having no idea what to do or say. It looked like he was about to clap back and say another harsh joke about Will or his family, but Rock took the high road and decided to stay calm. The internet was set ablaze by the slap, with many not even sure if it was real or just staged for publicity. But considering the aftermath, it was clearly real. Although many pointed out that Will actually laughed at the joke moments before deciding to get up and slap Chris Rock. After this event, many are accusing Jada of wearing the pants in their relationship and manipulating Will to do her dirty work for her. There is a chance that he was simply defending his wife, but many believe that Will knew that if he didn't do something to avenge her honor in that moment, Will would have been in trouble. Even though the event was said to be the biggest night of Will Smith's life, which definitely it was, just not in the way that he wanted. Next up, August Alsina. After the infamous Oscars slap, old reports that Jada had cheated on Will in the past resurfaced. The pair have spoken about how they are in an open marriage, so we are not sure if it was really cheating or not, but Jada admitted she was in a quote entanglement with rapper August Alsina during a break with her husband. During the Red Table Talk segment where they spoke of the affair, Will looked visibly angry about the situation and pushed Jada to confirm that she did have a relationship with August. After admitting to cheating, she did not apologize or even seem remorseful. She instead deflected, saying, quote, "I was in a lot of pain, I was very broken," saying she only wanted to help August, but it turned into a relationship. Alsina had been introduced to Jada by her son Jaden at a London music festival in 2015. Insiders stated that August became like a member of their family, even going on vacations with them and staying in their mansion. August is 21 years younger than Jada, and he claimed that Smith had actually given his blessing to have an affair with his wife, an allegation that Jada has denied. Will also reported that he had affairs with other women during this time. He was rumored to have slept with co-star Margot Robbie. Many believe that Will's insane reaction to the joke is proof that he is in a toxic relationship with his wife because he completely embarrassed himself on the biggest night of his life, all because of a bad joke. Even though it doesn't seem like Jada is ashamed of anything she did, it is strange that she tried to deny it, then downplayed it when she could not brush it off anymore. And without August coming forward, we would have never known about their strange relationship. Margot Robbie. Jada most likely hates actress Margot Robbie because it was rumored that Margot and Will had an affair while they were filming the movie Focus. But that's not all. Jada has also admitted that she has a bias against white women with blonde hair, which we assume attributed to this dislike. In 2018, Jada made headlines when she admitted on Red Table Talk that she has a racial bias, specifically admitting that she has a problem with blonde white women, saying on the episode, quote, "I do have my own biases, specifically with blonde women. Blonde hair on white women just triggers me, and I've had to catch myself." Pinkett Smith even admitted that she second-guessed doing interviews with blonde women in the past because they remind her of the type of kids who used to tease her in school. But Jada has worked hard to fix this bias and even admitted that white women still do face oppression based on their gender, making it easier to relate to them. Next up, Sheree Zampino. Sheree Zampino was married to Will Smith before he and Jada got married. The shady part is that Will and Jada started dating before he and Sheree were officially divorced. Jada's mother, Adrienne Banfield Jones, dished on Access, quote, "I think initially when Will first called you, I think he was still married or he was just separated, and I was like, he's not available to you." Jada added that Will was div, but the orst didn't happen yet. But Jada later admitted that when she learned things were not finalized, she should have backed off. To make matters worse, Jada has claimed on multiple occasions that she never even wanted to marry Will. She only decided to go forward with it because she was pregnant. Her mother and Will thought that starting a family was the best idea, and Jada reluctantly agreed. Later, the couple agreed to an open marriage. Scientology connections. After the Chris Rock incident, some started connecting the dots between the bizarre slap and Scientology. This is because the Smiths have been tied to Scientology in the past, and physical punishment is a popular teaching in the church. Apparently, it's a common teaching in Scientology to use slaps and other forms of physical force to show other Scientologists that they've done something wrong. After the slap, one user tweeted, quote, "There's a Scientology course, I guess you'd call it, that involves slapping or physically humiliating fellow Scientologists in a group setting as a means of exerting superiority. It's remarkably common within the cult." The user even shared that Tom Cruise is known to use similar styles of punishment, but instead of hitting, he uses shouting to intimidate movie crews. Although the Smiths have denied being involved with Scientology, the connection is pretty hard to deny. The couple were apparently introduced to the church by none other than Tom Cruise back in 2004. They got so involved with it that the Smith family spent almost $1 million in 2008 to set up a school for the church. The Smiths said they designed the curriculum in the school, but insiders claimed it was based on Scientology. Both Jaden and Willow attended, but the school closed 6 years later when most of the parents removed their children. Tony Ortega, an expert in Scientology, said that the Smiths left Scientology in 2015 and that Will at least only ever dabbled in it. However, he says that Jada was a full-fledged member and apparently everyone knows it. Next up, William Hendricks. The Oscars was the first time that many Will Smith fans saw him get violent. But to people like William Hendricks, his hot temper is well known. In 1989, Smith spent a night in jail after he hurt a man named William Hendricks so badly that Hendricks almost lost his sight. Even more coincidental, this incident happened days after Will won his first Grammy. I guess he likes to get into altercations around award season. The charges were later dropped against Will. Will Smith was 20 years old at the time and after getting in a verbal argument with the producer, decided to make things physical. As per a police report, Smith asked his bodyguard, Charles Alston, to quote attack record promoter William Hendricks, who needed 6 stitches after he fractured his left eye orbit during the altercation. Next up, Sony executives. One of the strangest things about the Smith family is the couple's relationship to their children. The Smiths have been open that they don't use punishment when dealing with their kids, and they pretty much let them do whatever they want. But this parenting style may have backfired, because it's common talk in the industry that Willow and Jaden are entitled brats that nobody wants to work with. Because of their parents, the kids have auditioned for many big roles in the past, but only Jaden has landed roles alongside his father. It was exposed that Sony executives have exchanged emails saying not to allow the Smith kids in their movies. As a response to this, Will shrugged and noted how, quote, everyone disses his kids. Some of this might stem from the differences between Will and Jada and how much fame they want their kids to have. Sources say that Will wants to push his kids to fame much more than Jada wants to, leading to a clear difference in parenting. Considering Will admits to being responsible for their kids' erratic behavior, it's not far-fetched to think that there's a clear difference in what both parents want for their children.
Starting off this countdown, we have the tabloids. According to a number of big news tabloids, Millie Bobby Brown has actually changed a lot because of her success with Stranger Things. There's a side of her that we don't get to see, but they do when conducting interviews. One source revealed, and I quote, "Brown was cool, aloof, and downright rude during promotional events for season 3 of Stranger Things. So much so that her publicist had to give her a little lesson in how to deal with media and fans." Well then, that's pretty awkward. Coming in at number 9, we have David Harbour. The bond that Millie's character Eleven and David Harbour's character Jim Hopper have on screen is incredibly beautiful. They are very close and share a deep love for each other. It's safe to say that in the show, they both saved each other in different ways. But outside of the set, the relationship is different. They both still love and care for each other, but David is very concerned about Millie. He's afraid that the fame and public attention will get to her head. In a podcast, David said, and I quote, "I have a real worry. I worry about her and the fame and all that she has to struggle with." David revealed this around the same time that Millie was facing a number of scandals, which we will be talking about next. In our 8th spot, we have Hunter Echo. Now, this is one of the scandals that I was talking about, and it's probably her biggest one. In July of 2021, during a live stream, Hunter Echo drunkenly admitted that he groomed Millie and that he did acts with her. Millie was 16 at the time, Hunter was 20. The age of consent is 18, but Hunter argued that everything was consensual and Millie's mom and dad knew everything. He even said that he lived in her house for 8 months. Still, the relationship was very inappropriate. And later, Millie's team said that they are taking action against Hunter and his claims as they were dishonest. Either way, Hunter had some nasty things to say about Millie. In the end, he got himself in big trouble instead of exposing Millie. In our 7th spot today, we have Drake. Now, this is another pretty weird controversy that Millie was involved in. It all started when it was revealed that Drake and her were pretty close and that they were frequently texting each other, which is weird because of their age difference. Like, Drake's in his 30s texting a teenager. And fans pointed out that Drake met one of his exes when she was a teenager and then later dated when she was of age. Anyways, according to Drake, Millie has a lot of boy trouble that he helps her with. Even Millie admitted in an interview that Drake helps her with her boy drama. When asked about what kind of boy drama, she said that it stays in the text messages. In our 6th spot, we have the stardom. Another tabloid revealed that Millie is having a hard time handling her stardom. They said, and I quote, "Millie has turned into a rude star and is unable to handle the stardom on her own." There are multiple videos of her interviews where people declare that Millie never leaves a chance to be in the spotlight and always interrupts her co-actors, which shows that she is being selfish and arrogant. End quote. Now, we will be talking about these interviews later on, but it is true. Whenever the Stranger Things cast does have an interview, Millie always takes the lead, preventing her co-stars to get a word in. And when they do talk, she often cuts them off and takes over the conversation, leaving them pretty annoyed. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with her behavior. According to some sources, Millie has already become a diva. Apparently, Millie's attitude was fine during Stranger Things season 1, but as soon as she got all the attention, her attitude changed. She started trying to behave more adult-like for the press, and a lot of people aren't here for it. In fact, she has been called cringy for it. It also makes it hard on set if she thinks she's top tier and the best. In fact, some people have labeled her as one of the most annoying actresses. Coming in at number 4, we have Jacob Sartorius. The two dated in 2017 for a few months. Millie said that when they broke up that it was mutual, but it seems like Jacob was pretty hurt over their breakup. In fact, he apparently wrote a number of songs about Millie, including the song "We're Not Friends," and the lyrics definitely call her out. Some lyrics go as so: "You're bad at seeing signals, girl. I've never introduced you to a single girl. And everything I do around you is on purpose, putting in the work for ya, hoping that it's working. I spent about a year just playing my part. I'm picking up the pieces to your broken heart. He also goes on to sing, girl, I wanna give you more than good advice. Yikes. Jacob? Yikes. Who knew Jacob had it in him? Coming in at number 3, we have Sadie Sink. Now, according to Millie Bobby Brown, Sadie Sink is one of her closest friends. However, there have been a number of incidences between the two that make us think that Sadie isn't the fondest of Millie. First off, let's take a look at this clip from an interview with the Stranger Things cast.
Because I mean, it was fun, but like, because Sadie got to see how like crazy I am when I'm 11. Like, I'm just like, you know, always really like deep in thought, and so like working together for the first time was like really fun.
I feel so sorry for her. Like, look at how walled up and awkward she gets when Millie cuts her off. And if you watch other interviews, she continually does this with Sadie, and Sadie's face says it all. In our second spot today, we have Caleb. Now, during the same interview, Caleb, who plays Lucas Sinclair on Stranger Things, I guess noticed that Sadie wasn't talking and kind of shied off. So he kind of called out Millie and asked Sadie if she wanted to say anything.
Sadie, do you want to talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You guys said it all.
Had he not said anything, Millie would have just continued to talk the whole interview without letting Sadie get a word in. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Caleb Part 2. During the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, Sadie, Caleb, and Millie went on stage to accept the award for Stranger Things. And well, take a look at how that went.
And obviously, you guys. I mean,
Millie literally couldn't wait her turn and prevented Caleb from saying anything. After which he kind of just gives a look like, really? Really, Millie? And it was captured all on live TV. Also, Millie doesn't even turn to apologize or anything. I don't even think she realized that he tripped in the back. Starting off our countdown is Miley Cyrus. She has talked about her Disney experience on more than one occasion, revealing the struggles she faced after taking on the epic role of Hannah Montana. Throughout her career, Miley has shared that she struggled with an eating disorder as a young girl and that she felt wearing makeup and a wig every day was the definition of what it meant to be a pop star. It was difficult for her to really find herself as Miley because the world knew her as Hannah Montana. Her mom is still her manager to this day, and she also admitted that Disney was not always the best to work for. She said she started understanding how many people were taking advantage of her young daughter and revealed that Miley was grossly, her quote, underpaid. It even came to light that Miley didn't even own her name during that time. Since her character outside of Hannah Montana was actually Miley Stewart on the show, they actually had rights to her name, Miley. Many reasons led up to her decision to quit in 2010, and even though she had a tough experience as a kid, she recently said she would totally do a reboot. So, but maybe now it's different because she's an adult. She can handle the Disney network. Coming up next, number 9 is Joe Jonas. He was just one of the brothers from the boy band The Jonas Brothers, but he took on the lead role in the Disney movies Camp Rock. In recent years, Joe wrote a piece for Vulture which highlighted his time at Disney. In the piece, he revealed that he and his brothers always had to sugarcoat their music and lives to maintain their innocent Disney persona. He said their lyrics actually had to be reviewed and approved by the Disney team, and if anything was too sexual or provoking, then they were told to change it. That was actually one of the main reasons that they decided to quit. He also said that Disney controlled their creativity too much and he started to feel like one of their puppets. For any young child star wanting a music career outside of Disney, this would have been a good warning for them. Outside of the personality image that they had to maintain, he also hated the fact that he had to shave every single day to play a role that was much younger than he was in real life. That would suck as a man. Moving on to number 8, we have Hilary Duff. There have been a lot of conflicting stories about what exactly led to her decision to leave Disney and her lead role as Lizzie McGuire. But fans got some kind of confirmation back in 2003 when her mom did an interview with Entertainment Weekly and claimed it had to do with her paycheck. Susan Duff claimed that Disney was trying to bully her daughter into accepting whatever offer they wanted to make for a sequel to the Lizzie McGuire movie. Her mom said that Hilary ended up walking away from the sequel, but then Disney walked away from the whole franchise. franchise. Hillary also spoke about it and said that it really had an effect on her mental health, which is why she chose to bow out for a while. She said, "I was just making records and touring and making movies and then doing it all over again. By the end of it, I was like, I'm done. I don't enjoy this anymore. I'm not who I want to be." So I guess Disney is not paying their stars enough is what I am starting to realize. Sliding into spot number 7 is Selena Gomez. The Wizards of Waverly Place star left her Disney days behind and had no problem explaining to her fans why. It was a pretty simple explanation and was the classic case of feeling the pressure to live up to that innocent Disney image. She told the New York Times, "I was being held to this expectation of being the good girl. I knew deep down that this wasn't what I wanted to do, being exhausted of forcing something that wasn't right." According to Refinery29, she decided to break away from Disney and actually signed a new contract with Interscope instead. At that point, she allegedly let go of her mother acting as her manager and also had split up with her then boyfriend, Justin Bieber. This was a very big moment in her career, and that is when she released her album, Revival. Once the album was out, she admitted it was the first time that she could breathe and no longer felt like she had to maintain the Disney guidelines. No one really realized just how bad her time with Disney was, and fans were shocked to hear her admit that it actually made her depressed and put her in a really low spot in her life. Rolling into number 6 is Dylan and Cole Sprouse. The twins took over the Disney Channel with their hit show The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and then The Sweet Life on Deck. From the outside looking in, it seemed like they had the world in their hands. But they suddenly left the Disney network behind and fans were shocked to learn their show would not continue. The boys have opened up about what happened and said they tried to pitch a spin-off idea to the Disney team but they shut it down. Dylan explained and said, "When we had pitched our idea, it was kind of the situation where they had almost laughed in our faces." He then said Disney came back to them a year later with an idea that was essentially the same thing as their original pitch. That is when he said he and his brother Cole basically laughed in their face and walked out. That was the last meeting they ever had with Disney, and despite having years-long relationship with them, things ended up leaving on a very icy note. They have no problem warning others that Disney might steal your ideas, so keep them to yourself. Halfway through our list at number 5 is Rowan Blanchard. She gained a massive fan base from her time on the newer Disney show Girl Meets World. Fans were crushed when the series was cancelled after their ratings dropped. Forbes reported that the show lost around 3.6 million viewers between season 1 and season 3. But the one thing that people always loved was Rowan and the fact that she prompted the idea of intersectional feminism. Despite her young age, she rallied for the Me Too movement and openly discussed her sexuality. She made a conscious decision back in 2017 to part ways with Disney following the cancellation of the show. She did an interview with W Magazine and said she left because she felt controlled by them. But she didn't exactly say the name Disney Network, probably to protect herself, but people could piece it together. She said, "I worked for a corporation for 4 years that is known for silencing and crafting your voice. So with that, I just had to very much stand my ground and separate myself, which I think I did." She now says that she loves that she's not recognized anymore for her Disney character, but she's now recognized for her activism. In spot number 4 is Raven-Symoné. Fans were devastated when Raven left Disney for a while after her TV series That's So Raven became a massive success. But she shocked everyone when she signed on to do a spin-off of the original show called Raven's Home at 33 years old. Fans really didn't believe that she would work with Disney ever again, thinking that there was bad blood between them, but turns out there wasn't. Kind of. She did admit to feeling the pressure of having to try and fit the mold of Raven from the show, and not who she was in real life, which is also Raven. When she came out in 2016, she revealed that Disney was always very accepting of her and her sexuality, but that people involved in the network weren't. She explained that during the last season of That's So Raven, she wore jeans and a vest and tie, and one of the members went up to her mom and said, "She looks too much like a lesbian. Can you tell her to put on a skirt and makeup? Because then they'll accept her and come to her concert." As we know from other examples on this list, fitting the Disney look can add a lot of pressure to someone, especially someone who felt like they couldn't really express who they really were. Luckily, Disney has been more supportive and inclusive with the LGBTQ community since her original show. Taking over at number 3, we have Shia LaBeouf.
If you followed his career, you would see that he is definitely one to experiment with new projects and avenues. But there was a route he refused to go down when he was working with Disney on the classic show Even Stevens. He did an interview with MTV and said that he stopped working with Disney because they were very controlling over where his career was headed. Turns out they wanted him to start a music career. When looking at Disney, most of their stars started out with acting and then went into singing as their career grew. Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, Hilary Duff, to name a few. Even Raven-Symoné. During his interview with MTV, he said, "I never came out with a music thing, even though Disney will push you that way." He went on to say that he always felt out of place at Disney and never felt like he truly belonged. Can you guys just imagine, like, Shia LaBeouf as a singer? Oh, what a world. Taking over the number 2 spot is Demi Lovato. The singer has always been open about her struggles with mental illness and addiction, but that was not always the case. She wasn't very transparent back in her Disney days when she starred on Sunny with a Chance and Camp Rock. In more recent interviews, she has revealed that she struggled with bulimia after getting bullied for her weight while working on Disney. She said she was performing concerts on an empty stomach and started self-medicating for her depression. The pressures of her Disney career quickly caught up to her, which might be why she was so angry in 2012 when Disney Channel made a joke in one of their scripts about eating disorders. Demi lashed out at them on Twitter and tweeted, "I find it really funny how a company can lose one of their actresses from the pressures of an eating disorder and yet still make jokes about that very disease." They responded immediately and said that they were removing both episodes that included the jokes and said it was never their intention to make light of eating disorders. In our number 1 spot is Bella Thorne. This story of Bella has become famous ever since she shared it with her fans. She found fame as a young child on the Disney TV series Shake It Up, but it was cancelled in 2013 despite being the number 1 series in 2 demographics. People thought she was going to stay with Disney and move on to her next project, but it seemed like she was fed up with taking orders from them. After leaving the network, Bella revealed that one time they threatened to fire her after she posted a photo of herself wearing a black bikini. They ended up telling her mom that they cannot afford to fire her at that point, but if she does anything like that again, they will. The worst part about the whole thing was that Bella's mom was the one who bought her that bikini. Once this story came to surface, Bella opened up more about her Disney experience and said she was forced to talk with a higher voice so that she would appeal to Disney's demographic. Even off the show, like during interviews and press, she was asked to change her tone. For anyone who does not follow Bella, she naturally has a deeper voice. Long story short, Bella stopped tolerating the demands and went on to pursue a very different career. She's now acting full-time, putting out music, and is also running an OnlyFans company. No lie.
Starting off at number 7, we have a New York City hostess. Back when exposing rich celebrities was trending online, TikTok user Julia Carolan took the opportunity to share her experiences with celebrities that she met when she was a host at a fancy New York City restaurant. One of those rich celebrities was none other than Hailey Baldwin. When talking about her, she said, quote, "This is gonna be controversial. I've met her a handful of times, and every time she was not nice. I really want to like her, but I have to give her like a 3.5 out of 10. Sorry." And even though Hailey was not the only rude celebrity mentioned, Hailey decided to apologize to the user by writing in the comments of that video, quote, "Just came across this video and wanted to say I'm so sorry if I've ever given you bad vibes or a bad attitude. That's not ever my intention. Hate hearing that was your experience with me, but glad you called me out so I can do better. Hopefully we meet again so I can apologize in person." And then Caroline responded thanking her for being accountable and taking the time to apologize. And for this one, she might have exposed that Hailey is maybe a little two-faced, maybe a little rude, but because Hailey apologized, I think we can all safely say that, you know, she's learned and grown and changed, and I think we can accept that apology. And at number 6, paparazzi. One group of people that absolutely hates Alec Baldwin is the paparazzi, as he has assaulted numerous paparazzi on a few occasions. The first and most famous went down in October of 1995 when a photographer was waiting outside of his home to get a glimpse of their newborn daughter. Baldwin started by spraying shaving cream on the paparazzi's windows, then a scuffle started, and Baldwin punched him right in the nose, while Alec denies this and says that he just slapped the camera out of his hand. Baldwin was later acquitted of misdemeanor battery charges in the case and won an invasion of privacy suit against Zanger, though Zanger won a civil case against Baldwin for damages that cost the actor $4,500. The next run-in was in June of 2012, and the paparazzi said about Baldwin, quote, "He comes after me, starts shoving and punching me, one time right in the chin." But Baldwin denied this and said that he was accosted by the paparazzi. Alec later said in a tweet the paparazzi should be, quote, "waterboarded." Yikes. So clearly, A lot of tension between those two groups. And at number 5, Dr. Daniel Barrett. A plastic surgeon who's gone viral from his videos talking about celebrity plastic surgeries got in some major hot water after he made a video about Hailey Bieber. In the viral TikTok, he compared pictures of Hailey then versus now, and pointed out what he thought was different about her face. Saying, quote, pay special attention to the nose. What do you think? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think it's physically impossible without getting a little bit of help from someone like myself to go from this picture to that picture. Adding that he thinks she had a rhinoplasty as well as jawline contouring, skin tightening, lip filler, and a chin implant. And apparently the Biebers are so threatened by this man's opinion that both Justin and Hailey threatened to sue him for the video. The couple accused the doctor of using Hailey's likeness, making claims about her, and using, quote, copyright protected lyrics from Justin's song Sorry in the caption. And the fact that he's trying to sue for a caption, like, that's a lot, Justin, come on. The couples reportedly sent him a cease and desist letter regarding his video, but because he did nothing wrong, it's not been taken down. Hailey somewhat responded to this on Instagram, where she claimed a lot of after photos are edited by the makeup artist, and she doesn't actually look like that. Either way, suing him is ridiculous. And at number 4, Harvey Levin. Even though I'm sure Harvey Levin doesn't have a vendetta against Alec Baldwin or the family in general, he owns gossip site TMZ, who's known for breaking tons of terrible stories about Alec. It was TMZ that exposed him for using the F-word slur, and it started the hate train against the star, even though the allegation turned out to be false. TMZ also leaked the voice memo that Alec left to his daughter Ireland, where he called her tons of horrible names, including a thoughtless little pig, which not only hurt Alec's reputation, but made his daughter Ireland even more hurt and embarrassed than she was before. And at number 3, Alec Baldwin himself. With the amount of insane scandals that Alec Baldwin has been in, I think it's safe to say that he gave us all the warning that we really needed. One incident was when he punched a random guy in the face after they got into a heated fight over a parking spot. Baldwin said that he had a family member holding the spot for him, but then the guy pulled into it. Baldwin and the man started arguing, and then Baldwin decided to sucker punch him right in the face. The next incident was when he was removed off a flight in 2011 because he refused to stop playing a game called Words with Friends on his phone. With Baldwin tweeting out after, quote, flight attendant on American reamed me out for playing Words with Friends while we sat at the gate not moving. Hashtag no wonder American Air is bankrupt. Then in another incident, he reamed out the police because they were going to ticket him for riding his bike the wrong way down the street. But he was so difficult they ended up arresting him, causing him to rant that, quote, New York officials are simply, quote, desperate for revenue and anxious to criminalize behavior once thought benign. And at number 2, Ireland Baldwin. So this is one you should see coming. But Alec has such a bad temper that his own daughter felt his wrath on a long voicemail message he angrily left when she didn't pick up the phone. Back in 2007, the voice message was leaked online, and people got to hear the awful things Alec said to his 11-year-old daughter at the time. With him saying in the call that she was, quote, a rude, thoughtless little pig. That needed to be, quote, straightened out, and she humiliated him for the last time, with things being extra heated because him and his wife Kim Basinger were in a heated custody battle at the time. At the time, he apologized in a statement saying, quote, I'm sorry as everyone who knows me is aware for losing my temper with my child. I have been driven to the edge by parental alienation for many years now. You have to go through this to understand, although I hope you never do. I'm sorry for what happened. Thankfully, Ireland can now joke about it with her saying that it was turned into a bigger deal than it actually was, but I'm sure that definitely hurt a little bit to receive that. In at number 1, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf got into such a bad feud with Alec Baldwin that he allegedly quit a play right before it was scheduled to premiere. The play was called Orphans, and at the time Shia said he quit due to, quote, creative differences, but later it was revealed that his co-star Alec Baldwin might have been the real reason. He took to Twitter and showed an email that was seemingly sent to Alec, where Shia said that men should behave a certain way, adding, quote, Alec, I'm sorry for my part of a disagreeable situation. Then there was a screenshot of another email from the play's director where he says he should have listened to Shia earlier. But then Shia posted an email exchange between him and Baldwin where Baldwin said, quote, I don't have an unkind word to say about you. Which is definitely something you say to someone that you don't like very much, in my experience. In at number 10, Nick Lachey. Nick Lachey also exposed Kim for being a little too friendly with the paparazzi in order to get some publicity from him. The singer claims that Kim might have only been dating him for publicity. Apparently the pair only dated for about a week, and some shady stuff went down. One time he said, let's just say this, we went to a movie, no one followed us there. Somehow, mysteriously, when we left, there were 30 photographers waiting outside. And I think from that story, it's very clear that Kim was tipping off the paparazzi, so there would be photos of them together. And if you didn't already know, unless someone is like incredibly famous, if they're a paparazzi when they are out, they definitely tipped off that paparazzi. And at number 9, Jon Hamm. The Mad Men star definitely has some choice words for the Kardashians, and based off what he said, it's clear he does not like the family and doesn't approve of how they rose to fame. With him telling LUK, whether it's Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian or whoever, stupidity is certainly celebrated. Being an idiot is a valuable commodity in this culture because you're rewarded significantly. It's celebrated. It doesn't make sense to me. So clearly he doesn't like the reality TV stars whatsoever and doesn't like how our society praises socialites like Paris Hilton and the Kardashians. And like, I kinda get where he's going. Like, you know, he has some valid points. And at number 8, Kristin Cavallari. Kristin Cavallari has a very interesting relationship with the Kar Jenner clan. It all started when Kristin dated Brody Jenner, and through that relationship she also became friends with the Kardashians. But after Brody and Kristin broke up, there was tension between Kristin and Kourtney Kardashian. After Kourtney caught Scott out with Kristin while they were in an off period. And after that, Kristin called out the family for using that information as a publicity stunt to get viewers to their show. And allegedly, after rumors broke that Kristin and Scott were having an affair, the Kardashians refused to deny it and instead waited to address it on their show, leaving Kristin looking like, you know, the bad, terrible other woman when it just wasn't even true. More than a little shady if you ask me. And at number 7, Barack Obama. Former President Barack Obama also couldn't hold his tongue when talking about the famous family, and it's definitely quite the compliment when the president is speaking about you. Or is it? The former president was talking about the changing dynamics of the American dream and how it's shifting with time, saying there was not that window into the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Kids weren't monitoring every day what Kim Kardashian was wearing or where Kanye West was going on vacation, and thinking that somehow was the mark of success. And ouch, here it's pretty obvious he was throwing some major shade their way. And he doesn't seem to like how they are now the standard for what success is. And apparently Kanye West did not like those comments and actually fired back at the president. But also, since Obama was a former president, you know, I trust his opinion and judgment way more than Kanye's. And at number 6, Kris Humphries. Kris Humphries was someone who probably challenged the Kardashian family the most and exposed secrets about them I'm sure they did not want out. Kim and Kris got married in one of the most lavish televised ceremonies ever, but famously after only 72 days, the couple split because Kim was having second thoughts. But based off how much content their reality shows got because of that relationship, then the breakup, Kris called Kim out for fraud, arguing that the whole relationship was just a publicity stunt. And their divorce was so messy it lasted 2 whole years before it was finalized. But during the massive trial, Kris exposed that a lot of the Kardashian show was scripted, and that the show purposefully made him look bad. Like when him and Scott threw a party in one episode while the girls were out of town, and they looked really horrible for going behind their backs when they told them not to have the party. The whole thing was actually just a huge sham, with Kim and Kourtney knowing about the party and acting like they didn't know for TV, in turn making Kris look like a terrible husband when it literally wasn't like that at all. Halfway at number 5, Rebel Wilson. Rebel Wilson revealed on a radio show that she was presented an opportunity to present an award with Kendall and Kylie Jenner, but Wilson ended up turning it down, with her saying in the interview, "I got asked to present with Kendall and Kylie at the recent VMAs and said no. It's not that you hate any of them individually, but it's just that everything they stand for is against everything I stand for, and they're not famous for talent. I've worked really hard to get where I've gotten to." And even though a lot of people who dislike the Kardashians share the same sentiments, Oprah Winfrey actually came to their defense against Wilson, if you can believe it, with Oprah saying that she couldn't believe how hard the family works, referencing when she filmed the family for Oprah's show, with crews taping the family for 7 hours straight, and then they filmed more of their reality show after. So as we all know, the Kardashian family really works very hard, even though it doesn't seem like they do too much. And at number 4, Bette Midler. After Kim uploaded her incredibly famous nude selfie where she covered her, you know, nether regions with just like black bars, the internet went ablaze talking about it. One of the people that didn't hold their tongue was Bette Midler, who tweeted out, "Kim Kardashian tweeted a nude selfie today. If Kim wants us to see a part of her we've never seen, she's gonna have to swallow the camera." Which, come on, you have to admit, it's pretty hilarious. Like, even if you like the Kardashians, like, it's a good tweet. As a clapback, Kim tweeted out that it was past Bette's bedtime and that she was a fake friend. And Bette responded back, "Looks like anyone can take a selfie, but not everyone can take a joke." And then she lightened the tension by posting her own nude. When talking about the feud later, Bette had no hard feelings and said she takes Twitter pretty lightly and hoping that Kim did the same. Hopefully Kim wasn't actually too peeved about that. I mean, come on, it was clearly a joke. I don't know. And at number 3, Wendy Williams. If you watch Wendy's show, which I definitely do on occasion, she spills the tea like nobody else, then you know she does not like the Kardashians and is always very blunt when talking about them. But Wendy got the spot of a Kardashian hater when she made some shady comments about Kim after her robbery incident. And when talking about the incident in Paris, Wendy said, "I would hope that she's not making any part of this up for dramatic effect. Because this family, you know, they're kind of soulless. You can't believe everything that you hear. But this was very, very upsetting." And although I do not agree with Wendy at all that the Paris incident was a publicity stunt, a lot of people did feel that the incident could have been exaggerated by the family for views, with people citing numerous times in the past that this has happened with the family. And again, I do not agree, but I mean, she just brought it up as kind of a possibility, and obviously she loves to shade them whenever she can. And at number 2, Blac Chyna. Blac Chyna is another Kardashian ex who was ousted from the family after her and Rob's relationship ended. And you know that whatever went down was bad, because the family is still nice to Tristan and not Chyna, even though Tristan is arguably way worse and embarrassed them so much more. The first of the feud was surrounding the fact that Kylie started dating Tyga, who was Chyna's ex. Then Chyna started dating Rob. And then the two got engaged and then pregnant very quickly. But after they had Dream, the whole thing fell apart and Chyna and the Kardashians were facing off on social media. Chyna even filed a lawsuit against the family, claiming that they stopped her show Rob and Chyna from getting a second season. A judge dismissed that case, but Chyna still shades the Kardashians whenever she can. And at number 1, Anna Wintour. This last one is something that I had no idea existed, but it's probably the shadiest one of all. So Vogue is one of the most prestigious magazines to be on the cover of, and Kim Kardashian and Kanye West were put on the cover in a very controversial move by the magazine's editor, Anna Wintour. When talking about the criticism, she noted that it would be a misstep to ignore the couple's influence, and she made the choice to lead and deal with the backlash rather than follow. And all of that praise to the couple is, you know, all well and good, until she gives them quite a backhanded compliment, saying, "I think if we just remain deeply tasteful and just put deeply tasteful people on the cover, it would be a rather boring magazine. Nobody would talk about us." And although I totally get what she's like trying to say, calling the couple, you know, deeply untasteful is definitely more than a little shady. But I mean, if anyone can shade anyone, it's Anna Wintour. She can shade whoever she wants.
Starting off our countdown at number 10 is Chris D'Elia. He was accused with some serious allegations, and why people find him so toxic is because he's gotten away with them. Earlier this year, he was caught messaging an underage girl trying to make plans with her to fly to New York to visit him. He claims he didn't know that she was underage, but she said her Instagram profile shows her age. He walked away from the situation hands clean, and it seemed like people just completely forgot about it. Fast forward to September, he was once again under a microscope after 2 more women came forward and accused him of exposing himself to them. Both women claim he exposed himself without their consent and performed sexual acts on himself. Chris's lawyer made a statement saying that Chris denies these allegations and states that he has never engaged in any sexual conduct with any woman without her consent. Again, these new allegations came in September and people have already stopped talking about it, which is clearly very toxic. And I don't understand. I don't get it. Up next, number 9 is Offset. He's been making a lot of negative headlines recently after it was announced that Cardi B had filed for divorce since he was caught cheating on her again. So some would say that a person who continues to cheat on his wife is a toxic person, but if that's not enough reason, his most recent news headline might be. The rapper was questioned by police while on Instagram Live last week while he was driving through a Trump rally. The cops said they received reports that he was waving a gun outside of the car window. He refused to get out of his car after they asked, so eventually the cops removed him, and at that point the live stream was stopped. Later on, the Beverly Hills Police Department tweeted a statement that clarified Cardi B's cousin, Marcelo Almanzar, who was in the passenger seat of Offset's car, was the one arrested for carrying a concealed weapon and carrying a loaded firearm in public. So it wasn't actually Offset with the gun, but he was still there and letting it happen. You know, still not a good situation. Rolling into spot number 8 is Britney Spears. The only reason she would ever be considered toxic right now is simply because the situation she is in is very confusing. It's hard to understand what exactly she is going through because the media has led fans to believe a few different outcomes. A movement was started online called Free Britney after people were worried that she was being held under strict restrictions from her father, who has full control over her life and finances. She started posting these strange videos and photos on her social media, and people said that she was using codes in her videos to ask for help. But then her sister made a statement online saying that mental illness is not a joke and that she is not being held captive or harmed. All we know is the legal battle Britney is facing against her father as her lawyer tries to get her back her rights to her own life and finances. Her dad was granted conservatorship in 2008 when Britney had her breakdown, but now they want to get everything back in her control. Cruising into spot number 7 is Mama June. It's honestly hard to consider her a celebrity, but she did reach heights of fame that no one really expected for her time on TLC's show Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. She was the mom in the reality show, and her personality won over the hearts of many people. But all of her fame and success came crashing down after news broke in 2014 saying that she was dating a 53-year-old sex offender who allegedly assaulted her own daughter, who actually came forward with these claims. TLC immediately canceled the show and people turned against Mama June, who continued dating him despite the claims from her own daughter. But she eventually moved on to another man, and that is when things got even worse. She was arrested with her new man in March 2019 at an Alabama gas station after police were called for a domestic disturbance. She ended up getting charged with felony possession of a controlled substance and drug paraphernalia and domestic violence/harassment. There's a lot of toxic things in that paragraph that I just read. Making her way into number 6 is Shannon Doherty. In the 90s, you would have seen her everywhere. She was taking on lead roles in Beverly Hills 90210 and Charmed. Stories surfaced saying that she was fired from Charmed after an ongoing feud that she had with her co-star Alyssa Milano. But that was never confirmed. All we know is that she left the show because of the feud, which was heavily documented for years. Fast forward to 2019, she reprised her role for the 90210 reboot but got fired after getting into a physical altercation with her co-star Jenny Garth. So I see a pattern happening here. It's clear that she does not get along with people, or that there just has to be some kind of miscommunication and coincidence. But once things got physical, she was fired from the show immediately because she was the one who started it, apparently. Only 1 month after the incident, she was involved in another court case where she was accused of owing the bank around $36,000. So there's a few reasons why people might be skeptical about hiring her or even being friends with her. This girl throws down if she don't like you. Halfway through the list, at number 5 is Ellen DeGeneres. 2020 has not been Ellen's year, and that is because she was attacked online all summer for allegedly not being as nice as she is on TV and having a toxic work environment. These claims started to surface after former employees and bodyguards came forward stating that the workplace was very toxic. But they only came forward after one of Ellen's guests, Nikki Tutorials, shared her experience on the show and said it wasn't what she thought it would be. She revealed that Ellen didn't even say hi to her before the show and that the overall experience wasn't as positive as she expected. The claims got so serious that her show was under investigation and 2 producers were fired from her show after they were accused of sexual harassment and misconduct. But Ellen's show somehow made it through, and she's filming a new season right now despite everything. In her opening season 18 monologue, she issued a public apology and said that they were working on making their work environment a better place. Rolling into number 4 is Chris Pratt. The Guardians of the Galaxy star has been facing tons of backlash after one tweet started trending where people had to choose which Chris was the worst one. Amy Berg tweeted, "One has to go," and attached pictures of Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt, Chris Evans, and Chris Pine. The innocent joke turned serious real quick after Ellen Page called him out for supporting a religious organization that reportedly discriminates against the LGBTQ community. The organization is called Hillsong Church, and in 2015, the senior pastor wrote in a post that the church welcomes all people but does not affirm all lifestyles, including the gay lifestyle. Their words, not mine. And to top it all off, people exposed the fact that he might be a Trump supporter. He did not attend the recent virtual fundraiser for Joe Biden, which was attended by all his other Avenger co-stars. Though he hasn't openly said that he discriminates against the LGBTQ community or that he supports Trump, people are claiming he is more toxic than people realized and that he's just quiet about it. And the third spot is Shia LaBeouf. There was a time when he was one of the biggest actors in Hollywood and didn't get involved in drama or controversy. But then that all changed and he was the center of it. Things seemed to take a dark turn for the actor in 2017 when video footage showed him wildly drunk and yelling racial slurs towards police officers who were arresting him. It was a hard scandal for him to defend because it wasn't just a story that he could deny. The whole thing was caught on camera and we got to see exactly what happened. After the incident, he was sentenced to 10 weeks of court-ordered rehab where he says that he learned that his violence and defensiveness was a result of post-traumatic stress disorder coming from an incident in his childhood. After that, he did have more controversial moments in his career, but he seems to be in a better place more recently. He was blacklisted for a while in Hollywood though, with one director saying that he is too much of a liability to hire him, aka he is too toxic. Moving on to number 2, we have Bill Cosby. Luckily, this toxic celebrity can no longer be spreading his toxins across Hollywood because his behavior had him locked behind bars. If you followed his highly publicized trial, then you would understand why he is considered one of the most toxic celebrities in Hollywood. His career came crashing down in 2014 when allegations surfaced that he had sexually assaulted more than 50 people throughout the years 1965 to 2008. After one woman came forward, it was a domino effect and other women came forward with their stories. Bill always claimed his innocence and battled the different allegations for years. But in 2018, he was found guilty for 3 counts of aggravated assault and then he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison. Now that doesn't seem like a long time if you ask me, like not enough time for his crimes, but since he's 83 years old right now, some people believe it's basically the rest of his life in there. Coming into our number 1 place is Chris Brown. People were wondering why Chris Brown wasn't included in the big who is the worst Chris debate. Because out of all the other Chris celebrities in the category, he is definitely the worst one. Or he should at least be considered. It seems like the world forgot the night in 2009 when he left his then girlfriend Rihanna bruised and bleeding. Now, he later admitted that their relationship was toxic and that the physical abuse was on both ends, but most people will agree that there is never an excuse to hit a woman. Chris did an interview after the altercation and fully admitted to punching her in the face that night, admitting that he felt like a monster after it happened. He was arrested after the photos and news stories broke the internet, and Rihanna actually testified against him in court. Some people were more forgiving towards him and saw it as a toxic relationship, while others saw his behavior as personal anger issues and very toxic violent habits. Starting us off in the number 10 spot is Jeffree Star. If you follow the YouTube community, then you know about the beauty guru even if you aren't interested in makeup. Even if you are a fan of him, he's always in the middle of every scandal, and recently he's been putting out fires everywhere in his career for a lot of harsh claims. He's being called a racist for past comments he's made. He was accused of knowing about the Davy Vanity sexual assault cases, and most recently accused of bullying James Charles and setting up that huge 2019 scandal to a point where James had suicidal thoughts. There is a lot to the drama because he's been a huge influencer on YouTube for years, but he's always the front man in every scandal, so we all can agree that that is a toxic place to be. Up next, number 9 is Perez Hilton. With his job, it's kind of impossible to not come off as a toxic person in Hollywood. He's a famous media personality who got known off his celebrity blogging pieces. His website covers all the latest drama and gossip about celebrities, and because he's the one dishing out the information, he often takes a lot of heat for it. I mean, we kind of do the same thing on our channels, like we cover the latest celebrity news, stories, and updates, and sometimes people come at us as if we're making up the gossip, but really we're the ones just delivering the news, like it's our job. But Perez kind of inserts himself in situations, like he tweets at celebrities causing these feuds, and he often just shares his opinion even when he's not asked to. So for more reasons than one, he could be viewed as very toxic. Cruising into number 8 is Kim Kardashian. Some people would argue that the whole Kardashian family, like in general, should be on this list, but Kim takes a lot of heat, especially being married to Kanye West, because we all know Kanye West and his erratic behavior. She recently received a ton of backlash after posting a video of her wearing a corset from her Met Gala outfit. In the video, her waist looks incredibly small, and people immediately started accusing her for setting dangerous body standards that could be dangerous to women and young girls that follow her. Even actress Jameela Jamil called her out publicly and accused her of being obsessed with her body shape and overall image. Maybe Kim doesn't realize how those types of posts could affect people, but it could be very toxic, especially for young girls who are influenced more by the media. In our number 7 spot is Chris Brown. He let the world know he was in a toxic relationship in 2009 when he faced assault charges from his girlfriend at the time, Rihanna. He pleaded guilty to the charges and openly admitted that they were both physical with each other, and said that he punched her in the face and busted her lip. Since then, he's always had an angry reputation, like getting kicked out of clubs, having feuds with other celebrities, and smashing windows in the back of a studio after walking off set because he didn't like the interviewer's question. Other celebrities have come forward saying that they just try to avoid him, probably for the best. Moving on to number 6, we have Lindsay Lohan. She was once one of the biggest celebrities in Hollywood, but struggled with an addiction that led to her arrest. She eventually got sober and moved to Dubai because she wanted to avoid paparazzi, and it is illegal over there. Fun fact. I don't think people had an issue with her addiction because we understand that some people struggle with it. It was her aggressive and erratic behavior that people just don't want to be involved with. She doesn't have a very good track record with other celebrities in more recent times, and because of her charges and reputation, a relationship with her could be toxic to their reputation. It looks like she is trying to make a comeback right now though, guys, so let's cross our fingers and send positive vibes her way, because I loved her and I would just, I would love a turnaround. I really would. Miss her and Amanda Bynes. I miss both of them very much. Halfway through at number 5 is Charlie Sheen. If you followed any of his behavior in recent years, then you would already understand why he's on our list. At one point in time, he was the highest paid TV actor in Hollywood, earning $1.8 million an episode, crazy, for his role on 2.5 Men. But then in 2018, he was admitting to Vanity Fair that he had been blacklisted. He said, "I've been unable to find steady work and have been blacklisted from many aspects of the entertainment industry. It was his addiction to drugs and alcohol that led him there after he had multiple trips to rehab, domestic violence charges against him by multiple women, lashing out at producers, and demanding a 50% raise on top of his $1.8 million an episode." Directors have said he is too much of a liability because his past behavior was so impulsive, but he has sobered up and there is a chance that he could turn his reputation around. Rolling into the number 4 spot is Azealia Banks. She's got a reputation for being a feisty little firecracker, and her temper has landed her in some trouble on more than one occasion. She has started storms on Twitter with her abrasive and offensive tweets, and she has been both physically and verbally aggressive in public. Allegedly, she's known as the Party Plague because she has been kicked out of numerous bars, parties, and even airplanes. She was investigated after she punched a security guard who was trying to remove her from a Los Angeles bar one time. Video footage of the incident led the LAPD to open a case against her. I mean, we all have that one drunk aggressive friend at the bar, and like once they just start going off and getting aggressive, like we just pretend we don't know them. You know what I mean? I do that. I have friends, they just try to look for fights and stuff, and I'm just like, you're on your own, I ain't trying to get involved in that. And I just pretend I don't know them. In the 3rd spot is Justin Bieber. The singer has done some damage to his reputation over the years, but at one point in time he had a clean record. Part of his career seemed to get out of control, and he was facing drunken misdemeanors like peeing in a public restaurant, skipping out on tabs, being removed from Coachella by a chokehold, and caught drinking underage. Fans also started to turn against him because they didn't like his attitude or behavior. He no longer took photo with fans. In fact, he actually yelled at fans who would try to take a picture or a video of him, and in one incident he allegedly spit on his fans. In more recent times though, after marrying Hailey Baldwin and moving to Canada, he seems to be under the radar and is kind of staying out of news headlines like as best as he can, unless they're good ones of course. Taking over number 2 is Farrah Abraham. She became famous from MTV's hit series Teen Mom, but as her career took off, fans started to question her parenting and didn't really agree with her behavior or choices. At one point in her career, she decided to star on Teen Mom and become an adult film star and entertainer. So of course, MTV could not allow her to stay on the show Teen Mom with children. So she ended up starting her own line of sex toys after that and underwent a ton of plastic surgery. The only press she gets these days is bad press because of her social media live streams. She gets butt injections, literally on her live stream, you know, like for promotion, shows her butt and everything, and her 11-year-old daughter Sophia is in the room with her, like talking about the butt injections. Her parenting choices are hers to make, obviously, but you can understand why people would see this as toxic. Earning the number 1 place is Shane Dawson. He first joined YouTube back in 2008 with a channel called Shane Dawson TV. His personality and funny skits at the time won people over, and he skyrocketed into fame, which led him to creating his own series called Conspiracy Theories with Shane Dawson. However, in this past year or so, he has been facing a harsh reality after people revealed old footage of him doing blackface, making racist comments, saying inappropriate comments about minors, and saying he sexually assaulted his cat. Now honestly, these are just a few of the controversies he is facing right now. What pushed everyone over the edge though was a recent video where he was performing inappropriate gestures towards a poster of Willow Smith when she was underage. Things are so bad for him right now that YouTube just canceled all ads across all 3 of his channels, which means that he is making $0 on any of his videos. Starting us off at number 10 is Bella Thorne. There is a big debate going around if Bella is in the wrong for this, so I will let you guys be the judge. The OnlyFans community is not happy with Bella after she joined the app and allegedly cheated the system. This caused OnlyFans to change their payment restrictions so that users can only get paid a certain amount of money per post, including their tips. The sex workers community publicly lashed out on Bella and said that she ruined their financial potential, and for a lot of these users, OnlyFans is their full-time income. They take it very seriously, obviously, and they don't think it's fair that Bella uses it when she doesn't really need the money. Obviously. Bella ended up apologizing and said she didn't know the rules and promised to make it up to some of these sex workers by promoting their OnlyFans pages and working alongside them. But former YouTuber Alicia Faith came forward with screenshots showing that she was one of these creators who was supposed to be promoted. She showed various screenshots of a group chat that Bella and her mom, who was also her manager, had created, saying they were gonna help them, but they never did. Both Bella and her mom ghosted the girls' messages in the chat. So that is basically the long story short of all this OnlyFans drama, but let me know what you guys think. I don't know if celebrities should be allowed to have OnlyFans. Up next, number 9 is Pokimane. She is one of the most popular Twitch streamers in the world, but could lose everything for breaking some of their policies. Throughout the years, she's been given warnings about breaking policies and has escaped being banned from the platform on a few different occasions, which obviously means that she's doing things that is against their guidelines. She's probably getting away with it more so than other people would because of her status. But recently, she's at risk once again for being banned after using the word simp in one of her live streams. She said the word multiple times and it grabbed Twitch's attention because they banned that use of the word along with some other words in an attempt to stop online harassment and bullying. Now, some people think it's a little ridiculous to ban words and then ban users for saying them, while others appreciate what they are trying to do. The reason she's believed to be so toxic though is not because she said the word simp. It's because she's broken policies many times, like the one time that she showed an explicit photo in one of her live streams, and she got suspended for a few days for that. Do you think she should have been banned for using the word simp? Is she toxic, or is Twitch just too strict? Let me know. Sniping her number 8 spot is Billie Eilish. Now, I personally do not think she deserves to be on this list. I think people are calling her toxic for a pretty ridiculous reason. All Billie did was participate in a new trend on Instagram called Post a Picture Of, where fans can ask her to share a photo of a specific thing. One of the responses on the trend asked her to show a picture of her phone's lock screen, so she screenshotted it and posted it to her story. Fans were thrilled that she did it, but when they saw what it was, some people had a problem with it. Her lock screen showed showed a waterproof painting of two naked women. Fans were a little confused by it, but then she was asked to post a picture of her favorite drawing, and she posted a number of sketches she had drawn of various female anatomy parts, I'll say, including breasts. She made a joke about it and captioned it with, "These probably LOL, I love boobs." Immediately after posting the photos, her followers started to drop rapidly and she lost over 100,000 followers in 30 minutes. She's only 18 years old and I can understand why her audience may be younger, but do you think that she deserved to lose that many followers because of this? Like, to me, this was not toxic behavior. However, some people think it was. And spot number 7, we got Sean Kingston. I mean, what's more toxic than not paying your bills and having warrants out for your arrest? It has been many years since he was taking over the pop music scene in Hollywood, so it might be a surprise that you see his name on this list. Somehow, he's always kept a name for himself though, even though he hasn't really put out music in years, probably a decade. Despite the fact he's been living a more quiet life, he has still made headlines throughout the years, but all for reasons that you would not want to. Police told TMZ there is a warrant out for his arrest right now, and he is facing grand theft charges due to unpaid jewelry bills. Apparently, he has had issues with paying off his jewelry in the past and has actually been sued a few times because of it. Police say they do not plan to actively search for him, but the warrant has been officially filed. His bail was set to $45,000 and he could be sentenced up to 3 years in prison if he is convicted. He has not commented on this, but honestly he seems very unbothered by it. Even though the warrant is public news now, he still continues to show off his fancy jewelry on his Instagram. You know, like the jewelry that he did not pay for. Moving on to number 6, we have Logan Paul. One of the reasons he left the YouTube scene was because of his bad decision that he made back in 2017, but it is finally catching up to him now. He has apologized many times for one mistake in particular, but it still wasn't enough to escape a lawsuit. If you missed what happened in 2017, he vlogged his visit with his friends to the Japanese suicide forest where they unexpectedly came across a real dead body. In the video, they could be seen laughing, and the body was actually shown in the final cut that he had posted to YouTube. People thought it was unacceptable and very insensitive to the person who had committed suicide and also their loved ones. Logan ended up losing a multi-million-dollar licensing agreement with Google, and he slowly just shied away from YouTube. But a few years later, in December 2020, a company called Plainless Pictures sued him and demanded he pay $3.5 million. In 2016, they produced a film with Logan called Airplane Mode and had the agreement with Google that YouTube would promote and distribute the film. But since Logan lost his agreement after his video, the film company is going after the $3.5 million that Google was actually supposed to pay. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but Logan has openly admitted to his mistake and he has apologized for it. But will he have to pay for it? That is the question. Halfway through our list, on number 5 is Gabby DiMartino. Whether she meant her actions to be toxic or not, we won't truly know, but she says that it was all done in innocent fun. The 25-year-old YouTuber was suspended on OnlyFans last month after she shocked her viewers with disturbing content that involved a video of a child. The child was actually her when she was a young girl. She was charging her fans $3 to view a video of her flashing the camera when she was just like a child. It was weird. She was kind of like dancing around, singing, and she lifted up her dress. I don't know why you would post it. People were confused with the content and it prompted serious concerns that could have led her to get arrested. People immediately started questioning if they were set up to view, possess, or distribute what they would refer to as CP. Now, this is an acronym that we use here on YouTube because I cannot say the actual words. In the United States, this is a Class D felony, so she could be in big trouble. Even if it's not right now, this could come back to haunt her. She was immediately suspended from the app, but at the time of this recording, she has not been charged with any crime yet. She did apologize after the incident and said the video was meant to be funny. She said, "It was a home video I love to share with my friends, and I use my OnlyFans as a Finsta page where I share stuff as I would with friends." I don't even know why you would share that with friends, but okay. Next up at number 4 is Trisha Paytas. The 32-year-old has had a long, successful career so far, but one that is filled with tons of drama and controversy. She has almost lost her career on multiple occasions, but somehow is able to keep going. But this year she has caused quite the stir on TikTok after starting drama with teens who are half her age. Through a variety of videos, she began calling out TikTok stars like Charli D'Amelio, Dixie D'Amelio, Emma Nortz, and Brooklyn XO, all of which are teenagers. She pulls up some of their content and then reacts to it in her TikTok videos and comments on their behavior. She is constantly accusing them of not being good influences to their younger audience, and fans are tired of her going after teens. She started getting accused of bullying and began getting attacked for attacking younger girls online. It's really just a bunch of unnecessary drama. In my opinion, she has every right not to find their content appropriate, like to each their own, but to make videos on it and publicly call them out, that is just creating drama. Let these teens just figure it out on their own. Let them grow up. They have parents, you're not their mom. Just is the generation we're living in right now. Taking over our third spot is Shia LaBeouf. It is hard to narrow down which part of his behavior is the most toxic, but throughout the years we have learned that his struggle with substance abuse has played a big part in it. There have been multiple moments throughout his career when fans thought it would be the end to everything that he had. His angry outbursts and trouble with the law have cost him tons of jobs and personal relationships. But at the end of 2020, allegations surfaced which could prove he's a lot more toxic than anyone ever even realized. Recently, his ex-girlfriend FKA Twigs sued him and accused him of sexual battery, assault, and infliction of emotional distress. The lawsuit was filled with disturbing details of the abuse she faced while dating him for a few years, even claiming that he had killed innocent stray dogs and then called it method acting. She expressed that he is very dangerous for women and that she feared for her life on multiple occasions while she was with him. Shia has responded to the claims and admitted that he was abusive towards himself and others in his past and blamed it on his substance abuse. But he still denies some of the claims and said that not everything in her lawsuit is true. We are not sure what the lawsuit will lead to, but his lawyer has revealed that he is seeking long-term inpatient treatment. Coming in at number 2 is Jake Paul. The YouTuber was recently feuding online with fighter Dylan Dennis, but then he took things a little bit too far by publicly attacking him. No, he did not fight him. He actually drove by him on the street when he was doing an interview and then pelted water balloons and toilet paper at him from a pickup truck. It literally sounds like an elementary slumber party. The videos from the prank, or whatever you want to call it, went viral instantly. Fans started attacking Jake, saying that what he did was childish and immature, but then rumors began to spread, claiming that the whole thing was staged. Both of them kept tweeting after the incident happened, which obviously fueled the fire between them, but fans investigated the video clips and are convinced that it was just one big publicity stunt, which just pissed them off even more. Honestly, whether it was staged or not, both options are just equally as ridiculous and immature, in my opinion. In the number 1 spot is Lil Wayne. The legendary rapper is facing some serious charges right now and could lose everything after his upcoming trial. There seems to be a pattern of behavior when it comes to having firearms in his possession. He was recently charged with possessing a firearm as a formerly convicted felon. That is right, this is not his first time facing charges for having an illegal firearm in his possession. He actually has a prior felony gun possession record from New York and was only charged for the new firearm despite being caught with marijuana, cocaine, and other drugs when the incident happened. The incident actually happened at Miami Airport over a year ago, but the charges did not catch up to him until now. He ended up pleading guilty in hopes that his sentence will be lighter. He is currently facing up to 10 years in prison, but after pleading guilty, he may get much less than that. His sentencing hearing is January 28th, so we will just have to wait and see what happens. But it is coming close.
Starting in at number 10, we have Antonio Brown. Former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown would find himself under fire from fans and other celebrities after he chose to stand by Kanye West after Kanye made some anti-Semitic comments. Antonio, who played in the NFL back in 2021, said he will still remain in his role as president for Donda Sports, which is Kanye's sport agency. With Antonio remaining true to its mission of Donda, he's also channeled his buddy's controversial campaign by saying and supporting Kanye's WLM movement. Kanye has had a lot of criticism over his WLM shirt that he wore during his Yeezy fashion show. Despite the negative reactions, he has still gone on to make headlines for anti-Semitic comments. Overall, the controversy, both Antonio and Kanye have started to become really close friends, and they've even started to work on some music with each other. It also seems like Kanye isn't the only one doing some pretty odd things lately, as Brown has had his own share of controversy when a video that was released back in October showed himself exposing himself to a woman in Dubai. With Antonio calling Kanye's comments reactionary and selective outrage, he will continue to bring his new ideas, experiences in design to our world while remaining in support of the humanity Kanye is bringing into the world. Number 9. Kim Kardashian. While we all notice the prospect of an epic, especially revolting fashion industry scandal unfolding, the response of some of the world's biggest celebrities caused many of us to be dumbfounded for continuing to support Cedric Charbit and the brand he represents as the CEO for Balenciaga. Just days before America's Thanksgiving holiday, the fashion house of Balenciaga would trigger some major backlash for its 2022 holiday advertising campaign, which toyed with some of the most deprived evils known to man, with the campaign exploiting children when the photos emerged of little girls holding on to handbags that were shaped like teddy bears, wearing some pretty outrageous gear, and a childlike drawing of a devil. We were all left feeling sick. At the end of the controversy, Balenciaga would try to claim that their plush bear bag should have never featured children in its campaign, and that they had no idea that the advertisement contained these images because they never approved the images. However, knowing that all companies have the final say to anything hitting the media, we all knew this was one giant lie made for the company to try to save their reputation. Kim Kardashian still choosing to stand by Balenciaga, a brand she seems to get all of her leotarded gloved outfits from. After days of being silent, she would say, "I appreciate Balenciaga's removal of the campaign and apology. In speaking with them, I believe they understand the seriousness of the issue and will take necessary measures for this to never happen again." While Kim has decided that she will be re-evaluating her relationship with the brand, many of us have been disgusted at the fact that Kim is being a coward for not immediately cutting ties off with the brand, and we're honestly all disappointed that she is a grown-up with her own children who should be protecting other children, but instead she's failing to protect the most innocent and vulnerable by supporting a brand that is always out here showing huge levels of controversy consistently. Hey Peaches, are you enjoying this video so far? If so, don't forget to give this a video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming in at number 8, Diddy. When Diddy decided to hop on the newest train in pop culture that revolved around cancel culture, many fans were pretty disappointed in his decision. When Diddy went on to say, "As a music family, none of us are saints, none of us are out here without things that happen to them in life." When the 2022 Billboard Music Awards came around, Diddy squarely stood behind Org's decision to invite Travis Scott and Morgan Wallen to perform, while explaining that one of the things he wants to do is cancel the uncancel, as the trend needs to be stopped. He would also go on to say that Travis went through a tragedy and Morgan hurled the N-word while talking to his boy. People make mistakes. Now we're moving forward on with love and respect for everybody that was hurt or affected. It's time to forgive. However, some actions are just unforgivable. As Morgan had been cancelled from 7 award shows last year, after the incident rose, his music sales would actually rise during the period. As for Travis Scott, on the other hand, he pretty much was sidelined for months after the Astroworld tragedy, having 100,000 people present and asking them to search the stage and ignoring an ambulance in the crowd was just disappointing to see, and the fact that he is out here supporting it is just heartbreaking. Number 7, Bella Thorne. So last year when Armie Hammer's fantasies were exposed and some unverified screenshots would show Armie making some pretty serious claims, when it came to his fantasies, although the topic was trending online, many celebrities choose to remain silent about the situation except for actor Bella Thorne, who took to her Instagram to defend. She would say, "I honestly can't believe this. People are crazy to fake this kind of stuff. Poor guy and his kids, like, leave his family alone. No way, he's a freak. Also, there's a million fake screenshots going around." People would certainly begin to criticize Bella's support by saying Bella Thorne is trash. How do some people still not see this? And Armie probably wasn't thinking about the good of his children when he told these girls about his fantasies, with Bella believing that she had more insight and wisdom when it came around to how Armie Hammer used his power to push boundaries with other women. The fact that she can sit here and claim that she's an ally to women and survivors, but doesn't let women have the chance chance to share their stories before claiming it as fake DMs, caused a lot of people to tell the star that no one actually asked for her opinion. Coming in at number 6, we have Bill Gates. When Bill Gates admitted that he was fundraising meetings that were held with late billionaire GE, he would discuss that the role that his relationship had with Jeffrey played a huge part in his divorce with Melinda Gates. When Bill sat down with Sunday Times, he would say that he didn't realize that by having those meetings, it would be seen as giving Jeffrey credibility. You're almost saying I forgive that type of behavior or something so clearly that the way it's seen that I made a huge mistake not understanding that. With Melinda speaking publicly about her separation from Bill, she would tell CBS that many things ultimately contributed to her decision to end the pair's marriage. She would then reveal a bunch of secrets that included that there were whispers for years about Gates' extramarital relationships for people who work for him, and that his behavior was known as an open secret. Bill has always been scheduling off-site meetings that weren't on his calendar with Jeffrey, having multiple employees of Bill and Melinda's foundation visit his mansion and speak to the foundation about a proposed dollar charitable fund after he served jail time. At number 5, Sharon Osbourne. When Piers Morgan voiced his disbelief in what Meghan Markle had to say about her mental health to Oprah, he would face the wrath of thousands of fans. When Sharon Osbourne would tweet her support for her longtime friend, this would cause an confrontation with the talk co-host Cheryl Underwood, who would then ask Osbourne on air if she was a racist. Shortly after, the two would engage in this huge altercation, and the conflict would start an investigation by CBS, which would force Sharon to apologize. Sharon, in writing, would then say, "To anyone of color that I offended, or to anyone that feels confused or let down by what I said, I'm truly sorry," she wrote in a statement. "I panicked, felt blindsided, got defensive, and allowed my fear and horror of being accused of being a racist take over." After her statement in support for Piers Morgan continued, she would face further claims by her colleagues' remarks, which some she would go on to admit to and some she would deny. Osbourne would then join her friend Piers on Talk TV, where the presenters hold nothing back and say what they feel and not following one party at all. At number 4, James Charles. After Charli D'Amelio uploaded a YouTube video that many people considered offensive as it showed her and her sister Dixie spitting out food in front of a personal chef, many users would deem it inappropriate. James Charles, who was also at the dinner, wouldn't be called out for any inappropriate behavior, surprisingly, like Charli and Dixie. However, that didn't stop him from speaking his mind about cancel culture and the D'Amelios dropping followers. James would go on to say the Charli situation is not sitting right with me right now. 100 million followers in 1 year and y'all expect her to know how to be a perfect role model? Backlash because she's a picky eater, and made a joke about milestones. 30-plus-year-olds dragging someone half their age. Feels familiar. However, I think a lot of people weren't upset about the fact that the girls didn't like the food, but the fact that they were beginning to spit up the food in front of the chef and making hurtful comments about it. The fact James tried to support this toxic behavior is just a little outrageous, because even with age you can't justify someone's poor table manners, because we were all taught better to react during these situations at a young age. And number 3, Boosie. After the baby made some homophobic remarks during his set at the 2021 Rolling Loud Festival in Miami, Boosie would take to his Instagram Live to rant about the displeasure of people canceling the baby over his remarks. Shortly after the baby's performance, even Lil Nas would make a joke that him and Jack Harlow would be wearing nothing during the VMA's performance while performing Industry Baby for charity, and this also really didn't sit well with Boosie, as he would claim no one should be picking sides over the baby saying some wild things. Boosie definitely wasn't done with his rant, and he would continue on in another video about his outrage over Lil Nas's announcement, with several artists, including thousands of fans, speaking out against the baby's extremely hurtful remarks that were made. All Boosie did was add more fuel and stigma to the discrimination that surrounds the LGBTQ community. The mistruths that were used by the baby and supported by Boosie had no place in society, and the fact that the musicians used their voice to spread so much hate towards the most marginalized people in our community is just saddening. Boosie's out here saying people shouldn't be taking sides, yet he took sides to spread hate instead of using his voice for good. At number 2, Bo Derek. Now, the Kardashian family has been slammed for blackfishing for years, especially when it comes to their braids. When Kim Kardashian West was accused of cultural appropriation after crediting actress Bo Derek as the inspiration behind her box braids, she would even go on to credit the braids as Bo Derek braids. Now, Bo Derek would come to the the star's defense. So Bo Derek, who is now 61, wore her hair like this while she was in the 1979 film 10, which featured the star running down a beach. Bo Derek would take to her Twitter account to say, "Hey, it's just a hairstyle that I worked on in the movie 10. Kim Kardashian calls it Bo Derek braids because she copied my pattern of braids. I copied it from Anne Margaret's backup singer from her Las Vegas show. And we all copy Queen Nefertari. I hope Her Royal Highness is flattered." While Derek has referred to the Egyptian queen, the two came under fire for not recognizing the styles and the history and origins and framing the looks as something new or edgy. Many people have been forced to cut their braids out to play sports or even to attend class, so both celebrities not understanding the hurt braids can cause was the concept of culture vulturing, and it was pretty disappointing to see. And at number 1 today we have Nikita Dragun. When the drama between James Charles and Tati Westbrook erupted online, things would become more complicated after Tati would reveal James was manipulating men that were still emerging into adulthood. Tati would also reveal that James was spreading lies about her and betraying her after she spent years helping him with his brand. After Nikita Dragun showed the screenshots that Sugar Bear agreed to give Charles influencer tickets if he did a promotion, she would force herself into a situation that definitely didn't look good on her image. Especially when James told Tati he was being swarmed by crazy fans to even get those tickets. Over the years, James has become a huge controversial figure, and Nikita has consistently defended the star and has stayed by his side in the wake of all his bad behavior. With James manipulating younger men, Nikita couldn't even understand the gravity of those topics, and she's continued to support James even when more of the situation became to come into light.
Number 10. Tom Hardy vs. Charlize Theron. Mad Max Fury Road is a forgotten gem in cinema history. It featured little to no CGI despite having some insane visuals, and it also featured some stellar performances from its cast, including Nicholas Hoult, Charlize Theron, and Tom Hardy. Charlize and Tom played the main characters, Furiosa and Max, and while their on-screen characters ended up working together in the end, on set there was a very different vibe. Tom had a bad habit of showing up late all the time. Meanwhile, Charlize was a brand new mother who would be there on time every day while her kids were forced to be taken care of by someone else. In a book called Blood, Sweat, and Chrome, The Wild and True Story of Mad Max Fury Road, writer Kyle Buchanan shared an instance on set between Charlize and Tom. Everyone was on set at 8 AM ready to shoot except for Mr. Hardy. But to make a point, Charlize took her place and stayed there until Tom showed up. 3 hours later, she didn't move a muscle, and according to the crew, she was beyond furious. When Tom finally showed up, she asked him how he could be so disrespectful and said that they should fine this CNX Tuesday $100,000 for every minute that he's held up the crew. Yeah, she didn't say see you next Tuesday, but the word she did say set Tom off. He rushed up to her and pulled out the whole "what'd you say to me?" thing, you know, like, "oh, a big tough guy, I can't hear anything." Overall, Charlize felt very threatened by Tom and had to have an assistant follow her around on set as a buffer between the two. When the shoot wrapped, the tension was gone and things seemed to have gotten better, but the difficult shoot combined with the stress of the project is most likely the reason that there was never a Mad Max 2. Number 9. Ryan Gosling vs. Rachel McAdams. The Notebook is considered to be one of the greatest romantic movies ever made in Hollywood. Oddly enough, the on-screen couple did not get along at all during the shoot. They would constantly fight on set and seemed to have completely different ideas on how several scenes should be played out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone who wasn't involved, you know, drama watchers who were sipping their tea. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress to read her lines with him. In front of 150 crew members, he claimed that Rachel wasn't giving him anything to work with, and the two would constantly yell on set. Their toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a toxic relationship that lasted for 2 years. Anyone who worked on the set blames them for constant schedule setbacks and creating just an overall difficult work environment. Number 8. LL Cool J vs. Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx has been a huge star in the world of Hollywood over the years, working with several acclaimed directors in every genre under the sun, but like most actors, Jamie had to start somewhere, and that somewhere was in the film Any Given Sunday from 1999, alongside Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, and of course, LL Cool J. Cool J and Jamie played teammates in the football-centric flick, and not only do their characters constantly fight on screen, but behind the scenes they had an actual brawl that ended in Miami County Police being called in. During one scene, the two were scripted to fight and filmed the first 2 takes as planned. However, some offset beef made its way in front of the camera when Jamie struck Cool J for real, splitting his lip open, and an all-out beatdown took place, leaving Jamie unconscious and in the hospital. They had to stop production because they weren't sure when Jamie would actually be able to return and film his scenes. When Fox did return to the set, it was with a small crew of friends and his manager. Waiting to greet them was LL Cool J and half of Brooklyn, according to the director, who stated that the tension was only settled after the real-life football players that the characters were based on came on set to defuse the situation. Number 7. Ryan Reynolds versus Wesley Snipes. Ryan Reynolds is known for many things. He's got his toe dipped into the world of adult beverages, wireless cell phone coverage, and he's even a soccer coach. Or football for our friends in the UK. One of his most iconic roles as an actor is of course the Merc with the Mouth, Mr. Deadpool himself. However, in 2004, Ryan was a part of a different Marvel movie. As some may know, the original Marvel movie that started this whole live-action comic trend was the Blade trilogy, starring Wesley Snipes as the titular vampire hunter. By the time the 3rd movie of the franchise rolled around, Wesley Snipes was just kinda done with working on set. He hated the way the franchise was turning out, and all of his creative suggestions were quickly shut down. His main problem was the fact that Blade Trinity was written as like a straight-up comedy movie when the previous entries were more dark, action-based movies, filled with gore and some pretty stellar fight sequences. So when Van Wilder was cast to be his co-star, he kinda gave up. He famously refused to film several scenes unless he was allowed to wear his shades on set. Apparently he was like micro-napping during takes, because he just didn't care anymore. Ryan played a big part in his difficulty enjoying the shoot. Apparently he made it his mission to make Wesley snap. He'd constantly do bits, push things too far, and just the general Ryan Reynolds chaos that we're all used to at this point. At the end of the day, Blade Trinity ended up burying the franchise and was one of the most chaotic and toxic films ever made in 2004. So, number 6. Vin Diesel versus The Rock. Remember everybody, family. That's it. That's my intro. Dwayne and Vin Diesel met on set of the 5th Fast and Furious movie, Fast 5. Very creative title. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie, but it was Dwayne's first, not just in the franchise, but in the acting world in general. At first, everything seemed to be okay with these guys on set. Fast 5 made a lot of money, and they asked Dwayne to return for a 6 and 7. However, something changed in 2016 when in a now deleted post Dwayne called one of his fellow Cast 7 co-stars a candied bum bum. He didn't say bum bum, but I'm not allowed to say that real word on the internet, so I must speak like a toddler. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors began to fly that this was more than likely referring to Vin Diesel. Rumors proven only a week after that post was made. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted on Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast members by name, but he left Vin out of the equation. It was later confirmed by Fast and Furious co-star Michelle Rodriguez that there was a massive amount of tension on set of the film. They were bros at first, but as the time went on and the franchise evolved, so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should receive the most screen time and who was the real lead of the franchise. You know, toxic masculinity and all that. To keep both actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off in which he co-starred as the lead alongside Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs, with his family. I know it's a bad impression, but it's a fun word to say in his voice. Number 5. Bill Murray versus Lucy Liu. Does anybody else just get the most hardcore Charlie's Angels flashbacks when they see these two together? No? Fair. Sony's first foray into the world of Charlie's Angels was a massive success when it was released, starring Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the titular angels. The movie was filled with action, a little bit of comedy, and one of the strangest performances ever delivered by Crispin Glover. Seriously, that guy needs help. One interesting addition to the cast was the inclusion of Ghostbusters alumni Bill Murray as the man behind the microphone, Mr. Bosley. Apparently, the set was anything but a comedy after Bill found out a scene had been rewritten without his knowledge. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke up about her time on set and the situation surrounding Bill's outburst. Apparently, Bill was away for a family event when a scene needed to be reshot for the movie, but instead of using a stand-in, it was decided that the scene could be filmed without Murray's character being involved, so it went on without him. When he returned to find that the change had been made while he was gone, he was furious and reportedly shouted at half of the crew, including Lucy herself. At first, she wasn't sure why he was aiming his comments at her. she didn't write the scene, she wasn't the director, so she asked if Bill was talking to her specifically, which apparently sent him into a full-blown meltdown. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior on set, and he was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy is proud for speaking her mind despite being a relatively unknown actor at the time, and is very glad that Bill's career seems to have suffered for it, because Lucy was just the first of many celebrities to comment on his behavior. We'll save that for another time. Number 4. Will Smith versus Janet Hubert. Will Smith got his big break in the acting world thanks to his successful time on the hit sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show followed Will as the titular prince, living with his wealthy family in Bel-Air, surrounded by cousins, uncles, and of course, Aunt Viv. In season 1, Aunt Viv was played by a woman named Janet Hubert Whitten, who, as many know, was recasted after an on-set feud with Will Smith just went a little bit too far. According to Will, Janet viewed him as the antagonist of her life. She had been in the business for years when suddenly this man popped into her life, and she held a tinge of jealousy towards Will as he just walked into town and he got a gig. Well, that's what happens when you're good at your job, Janet. She was trying to convince the producers to give her character more screen time and allow her to breathe on camera, but they said no because it was not the Aunt Viv show. She fought back hard, but it was ultimately decided that she would be asked to sit out for the rest of the series and be replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid, who is the Aunt Viv that everybody knows and loves. Number 3. Tom Hardy versus Shia LaBeouf. Making a return on this list is Mr. Tom Hardy, but this time it's with Shia. This was an on-set feud that was innocent from the perspective of the actors, but not the people who were making their movie. In 2012, Shia and Tom starred in a period piece crime drama called Lawless. It was a pretty solid movie featuring stellar performances from both of its leading men. In 2019, on an episode of the popular talk show Hot Ones, Shia addressed the rumors that he had knocked out his on-screen partner Tom during the shoot. According to Shia, the two were closer than people think and acted more like college buddies than enemies. Shia claims that the two would wrestle a lot on set and that it would sometimes distract people from their work. The rumor that he knocked Tom out was actually started by Tom after he fell down the stairs one night, and apparently he was getting ready for his role as Bane in Christopher Nolan's third Batman movie at the time, and Shia claims that the main reason he wanted people to think he was in a fight was, again, big tough guy. Their feud may have been innocent between themselves, but to everyone on the outside, Tom Hardy was about to pile drive Shia LaBeouf every 5 minutes. Number 2. Ray Fisher versus Joss Whedon. Ray played a major role in the 2017 DC movie Justice League as Cyborg. Not only was this the first live-action iteration of the character for film, but he was also the first black superhero in a leading role in DC. According to Fisher, he was mindful of this and he delivered the best performance that he could, and honestly, it was a great performance. There have been way worse actors involved with DC, and Cyborg was one of the best parts of the 2017 version. Now, I keep saying that because, as some may not know, the original director of the movie, Zack Snyder, was forced to drop out of the shoot midway through production due to a personal tragedy. The studio decided to bring in Avengers director Joss Whedon to finish the project, and at first he was just supposed to direct the movie, but he ended up rewriting most of the script and reshooting several of the scenes already finished by Zack. This is where the tension started. Joss did not appreciate any outside input on his script, and Ray was a very vocal performer who wanted to stick to the original vision that Zack Snyder had. A vision that we actually got to see in 2021 thanks to the Snyder cut of the film being released. It's 2 more hours, but it's way better. Ray claimed that Joss was not only dismissive towards his ideas, but that he was an absolute monster to work with. Following the release of the film, Fisher voiced his complaints to DC and Warner Brothers, who opened a brief investigation into the situation, but quickly dismissed the case, claiming that there was insufficient evidence to prove he was telling the truth. Thankfully, several of his co-stars and crew members backed up those claims that Joss was a very angry, racist, and just manipulative boss, creating an extremely toxic environment on set. The backlash from fans, combined with the hashtag Snyder Cut, allowed Warner Brothers to finish Zack's original vision for the project and release a 4-hour Snyder Cut in 2021. Not only is Cyborg's storyline much better in this version, but the project overall is considered to be one of the best DC movies ever made. And at number 1, James Franco versus Tyrese Gibson. So this feud was brought to my attention by a fellow host here at the studio, and I had never actually heard of this movie before today, but once I found out it was between James Franco and Tyrese, we had to include it on this list. These two start opposite each other in a 2005 dramatic piece called Annapolis. The story follows Franco's character wanting to attend the titular Naval Academy and entering into a boxing tournament against some of the Navy's best and brightest. His main opponent is Tyrese Gibson. Throughout the majority of the filming, James and Tyrese would regularly practice the choreography for the final fight of the film. Now, method acting is one thing, when you just pretend to be someone else all the time and that's it. But it's different when you're literally punching your co-star for real. Instead of the normal film choreography allowing actors to fake hit each other, Franco was throwing real punches without warning. Gibson tried to be civil at first and asked him to lighten up. Franco ignored him and just continued to box his heart out. When asked about the incident in interviews, Franco defended himself by saying that he was aware that he made the set difficult at times, and claimed to be so wrapped up in his role that he probably wasn't as friendly as he could be. Gibson, however, holds a massive grudge towards Franco, claiming that he would never step foot in the same room as this man ever again. Good news for Tyrese, James got cancelled and Fast 11's coming soon.
In at number 10, Drake and Kanye West. Drake and Kanye started off as friends and collaborators. When Drake was coming up in the industry, Kanye helped him a lot. He produced some of Drake's early hits, as well as even directing one of his music videos. But things all changed when Pusha T exposed that Drake had a son that he was hiding from the world. And Drake assumed that Kanye was the person that gave Pusha that information. The two feuded on and off, but their feud reached new heights with the release of their albums Donda and Certified Lover Boy. In the lead up to the releases, Kanye threatened Drake in a group chat and leaked his address after Drake called out Kanye on a Trippie Redd song. Both albums are released, and as of now, Kanye has the number 1 on the Billboard charts, while Drake broke Spotify and Apple Music's single-day streaming record. And at number 9, Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo. It might be hard for some of you to believe, but Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo were actually besties at one point in time, and I guess they proved that men and women can be good friends too. According to Ruffalo, while shooting the film 13 Going on 30, he and Garner became very close. They were talking a lot and becoming best friend status. That was until Ben Affleck came into the picture. After Jen and Ben started getting serious, her friendship with Mark Ruffalo started to dwindle. We're not sure if it was a natural thing or if Ben Affleck was uncomfortable with how close they were. When asked by a fan if he and Jennifer were still friends, Mark said, quote, "We had a great time together and I think we would have, but then Ben came on the scene and that was the end of that." So clearly he's still a little salty. And at number 8, Leighton Meester and Blake Lively. These two were co-stars on the hit show Gossip Girl, and since they played best friends, it's natural that they became close in real life. But it seems their characters' fate matched their behavior in real life, and the two became frenemies fast. Apparently, the relationship between them got tense during the last 2 seasons of filming, but the last straw between them was when Blake did not congratulate Leighton on her engagement to Adam Brody. After this, they basically didn't speak again. It was so tense their co-stars even commented on it. Chase Crawford said about the ladies, quote, "There are obviously always little dramas. You're on set for 16 hours, so people get irritable. In any workplace, there are always little things and frustrations." And at number 7, Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez. These two became friends when they were toddlers, acting on Barney and Friends. As they grew up, they stayed friends because they were both becoming Disney stars. But their close relationship turned to jealousy fast because they were both competing for essentially the same spot. Other friendships also got in the way, notably the relationship between Selena and Taylor Swift, which Demi did not approve of. This led to the pair unfollowing and then re-following each other on countless occasions, although it did seem that most of the animosity was coming from Demi. It seems that Selena has tried to stay cordial with Demi, and she has publicly supported Demi on a number of occasions, but Demi has not done the same back. A few years ago, a Finsta belonging to Demi was found that bashed Selena on multiple occasions, but apparently that turned out to be fake. As of now, it's hard to know where they stand, but it's safe to say they are not friends. And at number 6, Biggie and Tupac. These two rappers signified the great divide between the East and the West Coast of America. However, before they were feuding, they were actually good friends. These two were the biggest names in the 90s, and Tupac even supported Biggie while he was coming up in the industry. Biggie said, quote, "We just clicked off the top and we're cool ever since." But things got tense between them after Tupac was called to a New York studio and was robbed and shot 5 times. He thankfully survived, but he was sure that Biggie was involved. However, Biggie vehemently denied this. Over the years, the West Coast versus East Coast divide got even deeper, and the pair were bad-mouthing each other in the press and in their music. Things between them were never reconciled because both men were killed in drive-by shootings months apart from the other. Tupac was shot first, and many believe that Biggie was actually involved. Halfway number 5, Drake Bell and Josh Peck. These two were best friends on and off screen when they acted alongside each other on The Amanda Show, which led to them getting their own hit show, Drake and Josh. The duo seemed to remain friendly after their child stardom ended, but it seems that they drifted apart as they aged. and both men went along different paths. Things reached a head in their relationship when Josh Peck got married and didn't invite Drake Bell to the wedding. Drake was not happy and tweeted out for the world to see. He tweeted, quote, "True colors have come out today, message is loud and clear, ties are officially cut. I'll miss you, brother." There was some speculation if it was about the wedding, which Bell confirmed when he also tweeted, quote, "When you aren't invited to the wedding, the message is clear." After the story went viral, Josh responded that he was deeply hurt by Bell's tweets, but he also clarified the two hadn't really been friends for years. And at number 4, Seth Rogen and James Franco. Seth Rogen and James Franco have collaborated on countless movies together. They've been friends and collaborators since the beginning of their careers, but that all changed recently when Seth Rogen stated that he is no longer planning to collaborate with Franco after reports of multiple accusations of misconduct against women on the set of his movies. These allegations started in 2018. Since then, multiple women have come forward. When asked about his friendship with Franco, he didn't give a straight answer, but said, quote, "I don't know if I can define that right now during this interview. I can say, it has changed many things in our relationship and our dynamic." In at number 3, Kylie Jenner and Jordyn Woods. This is probably the messiest one on this list, so of course I had to give you a quick refresher. Kylie and Jordyn were besties since childhood, and they grew up doing practically everything together. They even lived together as adults, and Jordyn starred in Kylie's reality series, Life of Kylie. Their friendship not only boosted Jordyn's clout, but gave her real business opportunities with the family. But that all changed when Jordyn hooked up with Tristan Thompson, Khloe's baby daddy and boyfriend at the time. The whole thing was an absolute mess, and as a result, Jordyn was cut from the family, including her friendship with Kylie. Jordyn ended up going on Red Table Talk and claiming that the interaction she had with Tristan was small, but Khloe called her a liar on Twitter and claimed it was much more. As of now, the relationship is still very tense. And at number 2, the Kardashians and Larsa Pippen. If there's one thing to know about the Kardashians, they keep their circle very small, and once you break their trust, it's over. Kim and the rest of the family have been friends with Larsa for decades, but all of a sudden in 2020, the Kardashians and Larsa unfollowed each other on social media, making it clear they were not friends anymore. After rumors started swirling, Larsa claimed nothing bad happened and it was just a falling out. However, months later, she spilled some tea on a podcast, saying that Kanye was most likely the reason for their falling out. Apparently he used to call her at 3 and 4 in the morning and rant to Larsa, but it got too much so she blocked him. She then insinuated that Kim had a problem with this and potentially thought Larsa was doing something shady with Kanye, which Larsa denies. And finally, number 1, Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell. These two became known for their hilarious sitcom called Kenan and Kel. They were also both child stars living a very similar life, so it's no wonder that they became best friends during this time. But sadly, as they grew up, their friendship did not last. In 2012, Mitchell told TMZ that Thompson hadn't spoken to him in years, saying, quote, "The truth is Kenan does not want to be seen with me in any form of media or even have my name mentioned around him. I respect his choice of wanting to make a name for himself solo." It seems that these comments actually resonated with Kenan as he contacted Kel shortly after, and they reconciled their differences. They even became so close that they reprised their Good Burger sketch on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And now the pair work as executive producers on the All That revival, so it seems their relationship is closer than ever.
At number 10, Amber Heard and Kate James. Amber Heard lost a friend due to her actions towards Johnny Depp and her disregard for others. The actress's former friend and assistant Kate James exposed her for her hurtful actions on multiple occasions. During the libel case between Johnny Depp and The Sun publication, we saw testimonies from several people who were close to the couple, but none came close to that of Amber's ex-assistant Kate James. Kate went on record and said that Johnny was mentally and physically hurt by Amber during the time that she worked with her between 2012 and 2015. She also went on to disclose how the beginning of Amber and Johnny's relationship went, saying that Amber would, quote, "speak in disparaging terms about him and would say things that she was, quote, dating an old man." Kate also went on to expose how Amber would copy Johnny's lifestyle. She commented on the fact that upon beginning their relationship, Amber would start behaving weirdly in comparison to her true personality. She also went on to say that Amber, quote, "went through an odd change that almost morphed her into a version of Depp." Kate really exposed Amber for who she was behind the scenes, being that they spent so much time together. She did not hold back, especially after being betrayed by her when Amber retold a traumatic story from Kate's life and pawned it off
as if it was her own. This friendship was super toxic and ended badly. At number 9, Gwyneth Paltrow and Winona Ryder. Gwen and Winona were once really good friends, and they were seen out tons of times and even lived together at one point. They were two peas in a pod, but everything ended because of their competitiveness when it came to a Hollywood role. Apparently, both of the ladies auditioned for the lead role in Shakespeare in Love, but Gwyneth ended up snagging the role, and then even went on to win Best Actress at the Oscars for the role. It was a big victory for Gwen, but a gut punch for Winona. Then years later, when Winona was going through some rough times and she was busted for shoplifting, Gwen took a dig at her, writing in a newsletter saying, quote, "Back in the day, I had a friend of me who was pretty hell-bent on taking me down. I restrained myself fighting back. I tried to take the high road, but one day I heard something unfortunate and humiliating that happened to this person, and my reaction was deep relief and happiness." End quote. They were so close, but Hollywood just got the best of them, and the toxicity of the industry took them down. Before we carry on talking about those celebrity friendships that crashed and burned, I just want to take a quick moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Taylor Swift and Kim K. Here's a case of on and off again frenemies that just got really messy. So back in 2016, there was some beef between Taylor Swift and Kimye. Basically, Taylor said that she was really upset about some lyrics that Kanye had included in one of his songs that he had released at the time. She told fans that she never heard those lyrics and that she never approved of them, but Kim sensed something a little fishy about Taylor. The singer and their Kardashian West had only just reconciled after the whole VMA debacle, but it seemed like their friendship wasn't built to last since Kim decided to expose Taylor for lying about the lyrics. Kim shared a video that she had secretly recorded of Kanye on the phone with Taylor sharing lyrics to his song, and when he involved her name in them, she said it was a compliment and that she approved, even calling him a friend for sharing. Kim doesn't always get involved in Kanye's drama, but when she does, she has receipts and you know she's gonna share them. On top of that, Taylor obviously made a song about their friend breakup and dished about the whole situation, so I guess in a way they both betrayed each other. At number 7, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie were the best of friends at one point, practically inseparable, but everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked, and by the Fire Nation, I mean Nicole. Nicole decided to allegedly expose Paris and play her adult film at one of her parties. Their friendship pretty much crashed and burned at that point, leaving the two of them at odds. While this incident was only speculation and rumors, and it was never confirmed by either party, this betrayal seems to be the reigning theory as to what happened between them and why they had such a big falling out, because they stopped speaking to each other and they were no longer seen in public together, and something serious had to have happened for these BFFs to have such a falling out. The only time Paris really spoke out about her breakup with her bestie was during an interview where she said, quote, "It's no big secret that Nicole and I are no longer friends. Nicole knows what she did, and that's all I'm ever going to say about it." End quote. At number 6, Kim Cattrall and Sarah Jessica Parker. When Sex and the City was at its peak, everyone just pretty much assumed that the leading ladies were all best friends because they looked so close on TV. But we found out later that this was definitely not the case. After the third movie was taken off the table because of Cattrall's refusal to do the film, this is when the truth of the matter started to show. But the feud really came to a head after Cattrall's brother passed away, and Sarah Jessica Parker wrote a message of condolence to her former colleague on social media. Cattrall was not having it and clapped back to Sarah Jessica Parker's message by writing, quote, "Your continuous reaching out is a painful reminder of how cruel you really were then and now. Let me make this very clear. You are not my friend. So I'm writing to tell you one last time to stop exploiting our tragedy in order to restore your nice girl persona." End quote. This made it clear that there was a lot of built-up tension between them. Cattrall has addressed the fight numerous times, saying that the mean girl culture of the show is really what destroyed it. At number 5, James Charles and Tati Westbrook. James and Tati's falling out is probably one of the best examples of a toxic friendship. This whole bi-sister scandal from 2019 saw their entire relationship torn apart in the matter of one video. James and Tati famously had a relationship dating all the way back to the beginning of James's career, but Tati suddenly decided to cut ties with him after he posted at Coachella endorsing Sugar Bear Hair, the competitor to Tati's vitamin company. She then proceeded to expose him for his endorsement, and she could have stopped there, but she decided to also expose him for his alleged misconduct with other people as well. She claimed that James was trying to, quote, "manipulate someone's sexuality," and she referenced a specific incident that went down in 2019 at her birthday party. Though James thought of Tati as some kind of parental figure, she still decided to publicly cut ties with James, thus beginning the whole Dramageddon fiasco fiasco. Their falling out and subsequent drama roped so many other people into the mess as well, and a lot of people lost friends and followers. It was incredibly messy and overly toxic. At number 4, Little Mix. On October 8th of this year, former Little Mix member Jessie Nelson released her music video for her song Boys featuring Nicki Minaj, and this ended up causing a lot of drama. After the video dropped, backlash ensued as viewers immediately started speculating on whether or not Jessie was deliberately trying to portray herself as a black woman for content, and people started calling her out for blackfishing. In the Boys video, fans pointed out that Jessie was using a lot of black-centric aesthetics, most notably a darker tan, but with this blackfishing controversy came more drama as people started looking into Jessie's past with Little Mix. Soon one of the girl group's members came forward to say that she had actually warned Jessie about blackfishing and how it's wrong, but Jessie still did it anyway, and she even went so far as to claim that no one had ever commented on it until this video came out. This caused people to take a deeper look into Jessie's falling out with the group and the toxic friendships that they had. The downfall of Little Mix became a hot topic for a while, with people taking sides, but the bottom line is that all of this ended badly for everyone and no one came out on top. At number 3, Heidi Montag and Lauren Conrad. Heidi and Lauren were the it girls of reality TV back in the early 2000s when they started in the hit show The Hills, but in 2007 their friendship ended when Heidi Montag and her boyfriend Spencer spread a rumor that Lauren made an explicit tape with her boyfriend Jason. After the rumors started spreading through entertainment news like wildfire, Lauren decided to come forward about everything and commented on her website writing, quote, "We did not make a tape. Jason and I are both shocked and hurt that people would say such horrible things about us. I can't believe that somebody would go to such great lengths to try and damage my reputation." End quote. This situation got even worse when Lauren still had to shoot season 3 of The Hills, and that season is where the fight came to a head and there was an epic fight on camera between the reality TV stars. This fight was so bad that it still triggers some people, showing that this falling out was as bad as they come. At number 2, Zayn Malik and Perry Edwards. Yes, Zayn and Perry were in a relationship, but they were friends too, at least until the toxicity came in and ruined everything. The couple had started dating in 2012 and were engaged in 2013, but things soon turned sour after, and there's been a lot of hate in the mix there too. At first, when news of their split broke, there was little to no information about it other than reports that Zayn had asked Perry to move out of the house that they had shared together, and neither one of them were really talking about what happened between them. But things got heated when Zayn retweeted a tweet that said retweet for Fifth Harmony's Worth It or favorite for Little Mix's Black Magic. Instead of vote for his ex-girlfriend's music group, he voted for her competition, and fans immediately started the hashtag ZaynHasNoChill. Soon enough, Perry bounced back from the breakup and said things in her song "Shout Out to My Ex" about Zayn. The end of their relationship was messy to say the least, and a lot of people got roped into the drama, which just fueled the negativity surrounding the whole situation. And finally, at number 1, Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber. Before Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber were a couple, they were pretty close friends, but now they're at odds after their toxic relationship went up in flames. They started dating in 2011 when they were still teenagers, and from that point they had a rocky time together. They were on and off again for a while before finally ending things for good in 2018 when Hailey Baldwin came along. People were already aware of how toxic Selena and Justin's relationship was simply because of how many times they had public breakups and makeups, but in early 2020, Selena came forward to talk more in depth about their relationship and how she experienced mistreatment. Selena said that she was, quote, "a victim of certain things," saying that what she felt was emotional mistreatment from Justin. She also went on to say that it took her a long time to find strength in her experiences and to shake her, quote, "victim mentality." End quote. Justin never released a statement in response, but in late 2019 he did open up about his actions in past relationships, saying that he became, quote, "resentful, disrespectful to women, and angry." It's heartbreaking to hear just how bad things were between them, and the fact that they aren't together is probably for the best.